Previously on Best Ball Breakfast. Kerrane is the roaring kitty of BBM.
I'm not a good analyst for people on that at this point because I like him so much.
Once you're in slow draft hell, adding on like a 20 max poodle or whatever is like, might as well be one. Is any vibrations coming out of LA? We're all like, oh, did you hear it? It's Lad. I'm the Josh Downs hipster, man. I was on him before it was cool.
Can we get a little flex for the screen here? Let's get him out. Look at this. Permission to feed the ducks with you in the presence of the ducks.
I didn't know what was about to happen here.
It's revealing yourself that you're not a true fan of Best Ball Breakfast. You're acting like you're at a deli right now, and you're like, can I get a little...
And I'll just get a little side of Spears. I've definitely stared down the barrel at Jace Claypool.
And this week on Best Ball Breakfast, we have 4 more drafts on tap. I'm going to do one solo. We're going to do one, of course, with RotoViz's Shawn Siegele. We have a special twist on the Pat Kerrane slot today. Ben Gretch from Ship Chasing is going to be joining, so we'll have a full-blown Ship Chasing draft at the 12 p.m. hour. And then at 1 p.m., we're going to have the Badge Bros join us for a little off and on the clock Monday special. 4 drafts, Best Ball Mania 5. I'm Pete Overzet. This is Best Ball Breakfast. My slow draft rooms are so much different than my streamed drafts.
Does no one realize Underdog's half-point PPR? Idiots!
Damn, bro. You know ball. Hope you guys packed your bags. I packed my bags. No, I mean, I literally packed my bags.
Dude, Star Method's legit. Only way to max out every contest in the plus EV way. Week 17, you still gotta get there, bro.
We have a finite sample. We only have so much samples. Is it negative EV to stream all your drafts? We just don't know. GMs all around. Holy cow, 110 degrees in Tucson, Arizona. Good thing you got that farmer's hat on there, Brandon, protecting you from the hot heat. What is up, Tom? What is up, Tyler? How is it going, GMs? Let's pour some fucking coffee. Apologies to the kids. I mean, how am I supposed to delay the coffee pour when I get a setup like that? Here you go. This one goes out to KZ, to all the people who look forward to watching me pour coffee in the Best Ball breakfast mug, no less. Nice, solid, hearty pour to get us started here. James finally able to watch live this week. What is up, John? Grand Rising and fellow nerdy D-Gens. Yes, happy belated Father's Day to all of the dads. Hope you guys had a lovely Father's Day weekend. I had a good time yesterday. Grilled some steaks. Lauren made some brownies. It was a grand old time. I am sorry, I'm not feeding the ducks for 4 hours, buzzer beater. I will remember to feed the ducks we'll do feeding the ducks during the Kerrane draft. Or I guess we could feed the ducks during the first draft if you wanted to. I would allow that, but I'm not doing ducks for 4 hours. Thank you, KZ, for that validation here. We get the ASMR, we'll get the refreshing, all of that. We got Miles tapping in from Portugal. Look at that. International Best Ball breakfast this morning. Thank you. Yes, it was also my my birthday over the weekend. That was a good time as well. Charlie wants Kerrane to have to learn the ducks. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. What did you guys do this weekend? What were the Father's Day plans? It was funny because I got Lauren for Father's Day got me a separate grilling cookbook and some things for cleaning our grill. And I was thinking of Denny because on Best Ball After Dark on, when did we do it? Friday night, Denny was talking to me about his impossibly small grill and his experience of purchasing it at the Home Depot. And I was thinking of Denny as I got these grill gifts. I would pay a lot of money to get to see a stream of just Denny, just Denny grilling and kind of talking through his thought processes for that would be absolutely incredible. Yes, as Ned says, Denny After Dark was so funny. I of all the people, like I'm fortunate to get to do regular shows with a lot of my favorite people in the industry, but Denny is definitely at the top of the list of like, I should just have a weekly show with Denny because I enjoy getting to shoot the shit with him so much. And he is such a wonderful human being and very funny. So yeah, if you guys are YouTube members, you can get access to that Best Ball After Dark, as well as the entire Best Ball After Dark archives. And they're completely evergreen. It's just us shooting the shit, me getting to know people. Occasionally we'll do a draft. A few weeks ago with Dwayne, we did a draft, but for the most part, it's just me catching up with old pals, learning about new people in the space, all of that good stuff here. Yeah, lots of rave reviews for After Dark. And I will say, no, there's not going to be a Best Ball After Dark this week. I am traveling this week, so this would be a great time to tap into the archives if you haven't yet. We're going to be taking April on her first plane ride later this week. So I kind of have an abbreviated schedule. That's why we're going to do ship chasing and off and on the clock on Best Ball Breakfast today. I'm going to make a Deposit Kingdom video that should be out, but otherwise, I am going to be off for the rest of the week. Fantasy Life is also off for this week, so no newsletter. So taking a little bit of a break this week, but we had to get in Best Ball Breakfast. We had to get in that, and it will be a fun show today. And I am off to the races here, signed up for what is my 51st Best Ball Mania draft this past week. I think the Swole Cast was my 50th draft. So this is my 51st draft. And I also put together a video last week on the Deposit Kingdom channel. I have it pinned in the chat here and in the comments. It was 10 takeaways after 50 drafts, kind of going through a bunch of my, all things that have been talked about on this show at some point or another, but basically, aggregated them into one single video. Been getting lots of good comments on that, except for one guy who told me he doesn't believe in stacking, even though he accidentally stacks all the time. If you want to go read those comments, you could head over to the Deposit Kingdom channel. I also talk about some of my favorite rookies, my favorite backdoor stacks, some general rules of thumb for how I want to approach these drafts. So if you are kind of hopping in for the first time this summer, looking to get caught up to speed quickly, I think that video is a great place to start there. We got the 1-8 in this Best Ball Mania draft. It does look like a bit of a friends and family. I see my guy Nick here out of the 2-hole. I remember Patrick Barnes' YouTube. I remember marveling at his Underdog name a while ago and then realized he's the guy that helps ETR out with their YouTube. Welcome, Patrick. We got B-Spurf, of course. We got my guy TM Longacre, who has famously never not been in a draft with me. We got Roto Heat Craig, Jay Strez, line of scrimmage. So this will be fun. Normally, I just reflexively grab the running back here, but for some reason, I'm getting real avalanche vibes right now. I'm gonna start with Puka Nacua. This was actually one of my tips in the video. It's so tempting, and I normally would just take Bijan or Breece there, but I will say the point I make in the video is it's so tempting to take the first running back faller. Because what generally happens after that is if there's a first running back faller, it means there are going to be a ton of running back fallers. And sometimes if you grab that first faller in round 2, round 3, even round 4, you box yourself out of really good values while having to take the lesser of the wide receivers later. So if I get super avalanche vibes from a room here, and when Marvin Harrison goes at 1.9 and Garrett Wilson goes at 1.10, I think I read that correctly. I'm going to wait for some of the middle round values. Like this feels like a room where Isaiah Pacheco goes at 56, where, Josh Jacobs could slide to the middle of the 5th. So I think we are going to try to ski out in front of that avalanche for now, but shout out to the guys at the back end of the draft board. They get Bijan and Breece Hall. I think the Breece Hall and Drake London combo is probably a little bit more rare. The Bijan Jalen Waddle probably isn't, because Jalen Waddle often goes in the middle of round 2. I am going to continue not to grab running backs here. I need to get my ranks uploaded as well. I'm going to grab Brandon Aiyuk here to start. So we'll start Puka Nacua and Brandon Aiyuk off the rip. And I need to get my rankings in here to help me remember. All right, here we go. I am in a little bit of slow draft. I hopped in the Dalmatian. I have a couple poodles going, wrapping up a hound dog here. What's up, J Mike? Yeah, I was just talking. It was a Father's Day and birthday combo weekend. Went over to this kind of outdoor brewery on Saturday. Really nice day. Had some drinks, chasing April around, and then yesterday we went on a hike and did some grilling. So it was an all around very good weekend. Charlie took the first running back faller. I mean, you can't complain with Bijan at 111. But again, like we're going to start to see this, right? Barkley goes at 27. I've started to get my first Barkley shares. The other day on the Swolecast, I think I got him at 29 or 30. So I'm excited to start to get some Barkley shares. It's been hard to click him over the Olaves, the Aiyuks, the Nikos. But once you kind of get this tier break here, I have no problem starting to mix in some Barkley. And let's see here. So this is where I'm talking about, like, again, I have no problem with Kyren, although his ADP, this isn't even a huge ADP value here for Kyren. Let's see. Are there any correlation things if I want to take the plunge on one of these wide receivers? Last Best Ball Breakfast, I did the Michael Pittman thing. I'm going to go ahead and just grab Zay Flowers here to start. I'm not getting buried by this avalanche this morning. I just refuse. You know, a lot of times I come on here on a Monday morning and I'm like, oh, let's experiment. Let's do this. And then you're just trying to recover the entire draft. And I decided when I woke up this morning, I wasn't going to get buried by an avalanche. Yeah, I kind of even missed that. Brandon says CMC at 4 seems like the first baller. That was the canary in the coal mine for this draft. I did, if you guys are YouTube members, I tip you off in the Discord. There's a Best Ball Breakfast channel and there's alerts. And so I'll let you know when I'm getting in. And there was like 7 or 8 spots available when I hopped in. So that's what led to it being a very friends and family draft, which also means it is naturally going to be a wide receiver avalanche draft. Should I just play the clip? I mean, it is what it is.
Oh, dear God.
All right. Oh, dear God. Bindles, thank you for the gift here of a membership. Much appreciated. Let's see how we want to navigate this. So I am going to take the Sam Laporta here. I mean, this is why I love being patient in these drafts, because it's like, all right, Kyren a little bit past ADP. Don't mind that. It was like, oh, you know, Brees or Bijan, a pick past ADP. And then it's like, boom, I want more Sam Laporta. We get to talk about elite tight ends correlated with Brandon Aiyuk. And this is kind of like the epitome of why I don't want to push up Sam Laporta early in drafts for week 17 correlation, because think about all the people who push Sam Laporta up to pair with Brandon Aiyuk in the second round, right? They have Brandon Aiyuk with Sam Laporta. They have Deebo Samuel with Sam Laporta. Well, now I have Brandon Aiyuk with Sam Laporta plus Zay Flowers. Maybe you could argue that the people doing Aiyuk Laporta was able to get Zay at pick 41 a little bit at the beginning, but at least going forward, that's not going to be possible here. Blizzy says, Pete, I know you've talked about Laporta being pushed up due to week 17. Yeah, I just talked about that, but I heard Hayden mention he thinks Kelsey is the first tight end drafted in September. Do you think Laporta will fall in ADP? So I would say I would more buy Kelsey rising in ADP than I would Laporta falling. I think when you look at kind of the underdog market, people are obviously coming around to the idea of elite tight end this year. Laporta being not only a second-year guy, but also someone who finished first at the position last year. I would be pretty stunned if Kelsey flipped Laporta. You also continue to get more reports out of Kansas City about monitoring his workload and limiting it to extents. I think Adam Levitan shared an article from The Athletic last week where Kelsey was kind of talking about how he was okay being more of a role player during the regular season. I don't really know what kind of news would facilitate Travis Kelce's steam, because I think it's just the general stuff where we're like, oh, when new drafters log in on August, they're going to be like, you can get Derrick Henry at pick 45. Why would I do that? I'm going to take him in the second round. I don't know if new drafters are going to log in and be like, I can get Travis Kelce at pick 50 or whatever, I'm going to take him in the early third. I just don't know if Travis Kelce has that kind of pull still from the normie side. I could be wrong on that. But I think the fact that we have so many tight end options here is actually kind of keeping a lot of these prices in check. All right. Let's see. Do we have any good ADP values here? No good ADP values. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Xavier Worthy. And we will continue to ski in front of this avalanche. For the audio listeners, I started Puka, then Brandon Aiyuk, then grab Zay Flowers, then grab Sam Laporta at pick 41, and then Xavier Worthy here at 5'8". I was going to be maybe tempted by Josh Jacobs at 56. Pacheco at 54 is a guy I've been trying to get a little bit more of. I think Pacheco at 56 would have been a nice price there. But man, we're in a full-on avalanche. I mean, I take Xavier Worthy. Ridley pops off at 57. Rome at 58. Godwin at 59. Because these drafters, like line of scrimmage, when they take that running back, Charlie's smart enough to know that he can't fall behind. So then he hammers 4 straight wide receivers. We see DeAndre Hopkins go at pick 61. I mean, this is as avalanche as you can get. And because I didn't have to reach well ahead of ADP for any of my wide receivers, I just wanted to keep hammering it there, knowing these running back values are coming. Like, I'm going to get a running back value at some point. We'll just keep hammering these top wide receivers until things chill out a little bit. Kittle is elite adjacent. Yeah, for people who missed it, let's see here. Do I want to? Man, we still don't have like any huge ADP values here. No huge ADP values. Let's grab another wide receiver. Let's see if there's any good correlations here with these. Jordan Addison, both of these guys have bye weeks. We don't have any strong ADP. I'm going to grab Brian Thomas. I've been kind of mixing up my bets in this range. Brian Thomas, a little bit ahead of ADP. One nice thing you guys can see now in the draft caddy that I love. So next to these players, C1, B1, I promise you we're not playing Battleship. The C has to do with how many correlations you have on your team. So like this Jameson Williams, it says C1. That's because I have the San Francisco. So it's showing opposition correlation, not that I have Sam Laporta as well. And then the B1 is saying I have one other player with a week 5 bye, also Sam Laporta. So this makes it like specifically in these live drafts, it's really nice to be able to just scroll through and be like, I would like to see more C's than B's with this, and making sure you're not loading up on too many buys, and also quickly checking how many correlations you have there. But yeah, about the tight end thing, there was I think Hayden was stirring the pot on Friday, got everyone talking about elite tight end. I kind of mentioned my definition of it in a reply to a tweet, and having written it, I wished I would have defined it in the elite tight end video. So I made that video a couple weeks ago about why I believe elite tight end is the dominant strategy. And it reminded me of a throwback debate to the 0 RB years, where people would debate, like, what does 0 RB mean? Modified, you took one running back in 5 rounds. That's not, and it's like the whole point, like when we start getting into the semantics, I think we miss the forest for the trees. And the way I define elite tight end, I said, was how comfortable am I going with only 2 total tight ends and taking the second one very late? So as an example, I have done Kyle Pitts, who I view as an elite tight end this year for what he can do for my underdog teams. I've taken a late round tight end paired with him. Like I've done Kyle Pitts and last round Mike Gesicki. I'm comfortable with that with Kyle Pitts. I wouldn't do Evan Ingram in late round Mike Gesicki. I'm personally not comfortable with that. Your mileage may vary. And that's why if people want to make the argument for the Jake Fergusons, the Evan Ingrams, and the David Njokus, if they want to play those guys as elite tight ends, I think that's completely fine, as long as you are approaching it structurally from that angle, where you're saying, once I have this guy, I don't need to invest further capital in the position. So I know a lot of us around here are Brock Bowers bulls. If you want to do a Brock Bowers and a Hunter Henry team and treat him like an elite tight end, I think that's pretty smart. So to me, it all comes down to what are they doing for you structurally? Man, CJ Stroud really falling here. I really wish I had a Houston player, but I do not. Aaron Jones, wow, still not really getting an ADP value here. That's kind of interesting. I have not been taking a lot of Jameson Williams. You know what? Let's grab Aaron Jones. We'll grab Aaron Jones. I'm kind of surprised that I didn't get more of a running back value in this range. I thought I was going to get one of those fallers, like a Rachaad White, 20 picks past ADP. That at least what's supposed to happen to the wide receiver avalanches is you're supposed to at least be able to get a fun running back faller. And that's not even happening in this room. I thought briefly about taking Jameson Williams. I just do not like clicking him. I think he's overpriced. What was going to push me there was the Sam Laporta pick and just setting up a Jared Goff double stack. But one of the other things I mentioned in my video from last week is how I hate when I limit my roster flexibility via an extreme structure. So if I go Jameson Williams there, I basically don't even have any other wide receiver spots to spend. So if I get boxed out on some of these quarterbacks, I don't have avenues for building out backdoor stacks. So I would ideally like to keep a couple of pass catchers in my back pocket right now. And I'm kind of glad that I made that decision at the last moment. So we will be grabbing a running back here, thinking through my quarterbacks. So I have Stafford, I have Purdy, I have Goff, and I have Lawrence. So that's a good repertoire there. So this is going to be a running back pick. ADP, a Najee. We could do a Brooks. Let's do Najee, right? Because Najee gives us two correlations. We get week 17 versus Xavier Worthy, and we get week 16 versus Zay Flowers. I like that. I have been cooling just a teeny bit on Jonathan Brooks, not my outlook for him on the season, but just thinking we're going to get cheaper Jonathan Brooks here based on when he's announced on the camp pup list. I've heard some people talking about that, and I do agree with the thesis that the market is going to double count that. Would not be surprised to see Jonathan Brooks kind of fall around to the late 90s, early 100s. So I've been trying to kind of take my foot off the gas on him. I was at 20% Jonathan Brooks, and I would probably end up with 40% if I didn't kind of chill for a while in between him and whatever is announced with him not being quite ready. And we already kind of started to get the breadcrumbs with that. I believe the coach had said he's not expected to be at camp, or at least at the start of camp. So trying to play that from a market angle, still very in on what Jonathan Brooks can do for our teams this year. But because I have so much of him at this ADP, I would like to be a little more price sensitive with my Jonathan Brooks clicks going forward. Yeah, FF Doom says JMO hype is only going to get worse, it seems, after listening to Coach speak and Kerrane. I know. I'm starting to think I might be a little bit on an island. I know Shawn is into Jameson still. Coach speak was pretty bullish on kind of how Dan Campbell had been talking about him and had some pretty good evidence to back it up. Like the way Dan Campbell's pretty honest when he talks about a player's development. And he went back through the history on that podcast. I recommend checking that out. It's on the Legendary Upside feed. I actually did a Best Ball After Dark with Greg a while ago as well. If you want to know more about his background, he has a crazy background, was in a cult. He's done stand-up comedy. He's done writing. He's lived all over the world. Very interesting dude. But anyways, he said, like Dan Campbell's comments about Jameson Williams for the entire first part of his career was just, we got a lot of work to do. Still a lot of rough around the edges. We gotta firm that up. And now he's starting to talk about him as the most improved player, the best player at camp, yada, yada. So I am paying attention. I just still find this price to be pretty hard to swallow right now. Exactly. You know what? I would have happily taken Jaylen Warren at 89 for the same correlation benefits, but he did go at 86. It seemed like the perfect time to grab that Najee share. So we have some quarterbacks falling here. Again, I don't have anything with Cincy. I don't have anything with that. I could do something with Jaden Daniels, but because I have so many of these other pocket passers coming down the pike, I feel like this can be another running back pick. Should we just make all the gross clicks today? Let's see. We'll do Tony Pollard, and we'll get another week 17 correlation Pollard opposite of Brian Thomas. These are some of my fun kind of like zero RB rooms to do. And we've talked about it before where it's like you build the zero RB version with all the players that the zero RB bros don't like to click. Like old Pete would do Aaron Jones, Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson there. That's like what I would do if I just was on complete autopilot and not really checking my own bullshit sometimes. And instead today we went Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, just drafting all the dusty dudes. More coffee. Yeah, no one's having fun in this room. This room is not fun. I'm having slightly more fun because I refuse to get buried by the avalanche. I think what I am going to do here, because my 3 quarterback targets are all in this upcoming range, and I think I need to take one of them now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab Brock Purdy because I have Brock with Aiyuk, and then I also have the Laporta bring back. And I don't think there's anything else here. There are some running backs I like, but I want to make sure I'm getting my my quarterbacks kind of locked up here. And to me, this feels like a room where I could get 2 within this window. I now have Lawrence and Goff as options. And then kind of the backstop would be Stafford. But then the other kind of nice thing is with these 3 running backs, I think you can build out some kind of unconventional stacks. Minnesota, obviously, with JJ McCarthy, although there's not too much left to do skill position wise there, unless I want to take the Hawkinson plunge, which I haven't been doing. With Najee, we can Galbrain a little Justin Fields. Also saw a little hype on Calvin Austin on the timeline this morning. Tony Pollard, obviously, with Levis. There's some stuff you can do there. So I won't be fully boxed out of teammate correlation here, but I did, in case there's a run on these quarterbacks, I wanted to make sure I had at least one here within this window. OG1, can you pause the show so I can run upstairs to the break room and get some coffee? You got me, Jonesin. Sure, no problem. I wonder if I was a true performance artist, I would commit to that bit for much longer. But I don't know how to do that. So look at this. I love this this fall here. Man, so this is a masterclass from Biff here about how to be patient with your stacks in reading rooms. So CeeDee Lamb at 101, Jake Ferguson in round 8. Now it's a little easier when you have Lamar, right? Because that second quarterback is not near as much of a necessity for this team. So you kind of have the luxury of pushing it, but then pushing Dak all the way to pick 120 is pretty nice. But again, this is kind of the reason I feel good about getting out in front of this avalanche, because then you have Polk going at 121, Jeudy 116, Cooks 115, Myers 114. So a lot of these teams who took some of the detours like B-Spurf, the reason B-Spurf wasn't having fun is because he had CMC, Henry, and Kincaid and only 2 wide receivers through 5 rounds. So Jared Goff does come off the board, which is fine. I'm not like anti having 2 quarterbacks from the week 17 game, but if I can just do all things equal, I do think now grabbing Trevor Lawrence, and now I basically have 2 of my week 17 game stacks set up. Let me just check the buys here. We're good on buys. Brock Purdy 9, Trevor Lawrence 12. We get Lawrence 10 picks past ADP stacked up with Brian Thomas. And now we can shut it down at quarterback, or we kind of have the flexibility to do a third. I think this, for me, kind of falls into the tweener area as far as capital. Like I have no problem rocking a 2 QB build with these 2. Or if I really like the value on a third quarterback stack that I want to set up, I can do it. And then, I like Chase Brown. He was up here. He would have been a bit of a value. He's one of my most drafted players. But seeing how much running back value is on the board coming back around, and I already have 3 running backs, I felt better about locking up that quarterback right there. And now I hit this sweet spot of the board. You can see by ADP, it's all running backs. The question here is, do I grab the Ricky Pearsall double with Purdy? I've been trying to, you know what? This is the theme of this show. This is the theme of this draft. It's the old dusty running backs. I've been wanting to get a little bit more Austin Eckler when the price is right. Let's do it. Let's do it. Look at this room. Dude, this room would have been pretty good 4 years ago. Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, and Tony Pollard, and Austin Eckler. I'm doing the anti-zero RB room. Man. You know what? It's like, this is what, when Blake Corum, Chase Brown, Kendre Miller, MarShawn Lloyd, all guys I love to click, come off the board, I just listened and I said, that's Austin Eckler's music. That's Austin Eckler's music. Hey, I'm queuing up Marshawn Lynch at this point. That's a fun room for Father's Day weekend. Let's recap this one for the audio listeners. We're at a 2-4-5-1. This was a full-blown avalanche draft. I'll recap it from the top here. So in round one, we grabbed Puka Nacua instead of the running backs. We could tell that this was going to be a wide receiver avalanche room. I licked my tongue, put the finger up in the air. I could feel the avalanche winds of brewing. We went Puka, Brandon Aiyuk, Zay Flowers. We get a nice value on Sam Laporta in the fourth at pick 41. Come back and grab Xavier Worthy and Brian Thomas, getting a couple rookies there. Was hoping to get some more mega running back values, but settle for Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard. Then we grab a couple of quarterbacks, Brock Purdy and Trevor Lawrence. And then we come back and grab Austin Eckler. Does the whole team get brand new white New Balance sneakers? Yes. If I win Best Ball Mania, how about this? After the show, if I win Best Ball Mania with this team, I will buy anyone who leaves a comment over the next couple of days with their New Balance shoe size and preferred color. I will absolutely deliver on that. You have to leave a comment within the next couple of days. You can't leave the comment until after the stream's over. Live chat doesn't count. New Balance shoe size and color. And if I win Best Ball Mania with this team, everyone who comments gets New Balances on me. I will single-handedly go through and connect with each of you. I will get your address. If I win Best Ball Mania, I'll hire an assistant. I will hire an assistant who will go through all of those and send you guys shoes. This stream will henceforth be known as the New Balance BDM giveaway stream. People talk about tying up your money for 6 months playing best ball. How about tying up your sneaker purchases? One of you is going to be sick enough to be like, Christmas is the 25th, but Best Ball Mania is not going to be finalized until early January. Babe, don't buy me those New Balances in case Pete wins Best Ball Mania with that team he drafted on June 17th, because I did leave a comment on his YouTube stream. Oh, I'm on the clock. Oh, beautiful. Ricky Pearsall comes back. That couldn't have worked out any better. Ricky Pearsall, come on down. We get the double stack with Brock at a nice ADP value there. But there are going to be haters here because they're going to say this team, you know what? What's the other thing we could do for the giveaway that balances the young and the old? Because this team is polarized, right? We got the 3 young rookie wide receivers. We have Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas, and Ricky Pearsall. But then we have all the olds at running back. But it does make sense. Dad runners, running backs, dad runner, running backs. Farming engagement by bribing us with New Balances. Hashtag blue size 13. Exactly. Oh, yeah. No, the New Balance thing, they still have the styles that are like the old school, mid 90s Jerry Seinfeld look, but then there are actually cool New Balances. All right, let's get back on track here. Let's see what we want to do. We will have to, It's funny. Where is a fair price for TJ Hawkinson? Is this a fair price? Or is this still too much? Should we push him again? Trying to think other stuff here. We could do like a weird 3 tight end team. Yeah, 160. Let's grab. We'll grab another rookie wide receiver here. I'm gonna push Hawkinson. That was kind of tempting. We'll grab Malachi Corley. Up to 7 wide receivers. We'll see if the room forces us to take Hawkinson. I don't mind if I were to do the Hawkinson thing with Laporta. Is kind of interesting just because if you're taking Laporta, you are playing for him to be the tight end 1 again, and theoretically will not need to use too many of the Hawkinson stuff. But I think the way I've been thinking about it and what kind of sucks is I still think you would want Hawkinson in a 3 tight end build, right? Because we know even having 2 tight ends with the same bye week can slightly lower your advance rate. So if you're essentially rocking a single tight end for 10 weeks, I think that could really dive bomb an otherwise great team. So if you're going to pull off the Hawkinson thing, and it's kind of counterintuitive because you would think, oh, get the elite tight end. That allows you to kind of buoy the Hawkinson score, but to only roll 1 tight end every week for 10, 12, 13 weeks, I'd almost rather have Hawkinson as part of like you do the Bowers, Noah Fant, Hawkinson thing, and at least make sure you have 2 other viable tight ends week in and week out. Yeah, Juwan Johnson, that was another recent injury. Kind of our first, I guess, would you guys call that our first kind of significant injury? I know he was a late round pick, but sounds like he's going to be out for a little while, though maybe expected to be ready for the start of season. You never know how much that lingers. Yeah, I've been clicking Juwan Johnson like a decent amount. You know, I was doing when I would do 2 tight end builds or even 3, you know, guys like Noah Fant, Juwan Johnson were some of my favorite late round guys. Luckily, I didn't have a mega amount of him. I should actually go see how much I had of him. Let's see. How much Juwan Johnson do we have? And I need to make sure I don't miss a pick here. Where am I? Completed, regular season, exposure. Let's just do tournaments just to see Best Ball Mania. Juwan Johnson, I was at 10%, which I wish it was less than that, considering he's about to get a lot cheaper. But let's see here. We have 3 more picks. Probably feels like the time to grab. The running backs are really drying up here. We can think through kind of how we want to play tight end here. Lots of viable tight ends coming up. Have some nice correlated options as well. This to me feels like a running back or tight end pick. Let's see if there's any ADP values here. Yeah, I think Jaleel McLaughlin is the pick here. McLaughlin falls 16 picks past ADP. No correlations on this team with McLaughlin. But to me, I don't mind Chuba, but this isn't the team I need Chuba, right? Like the teams you need Chuba is when you have Trey Benson and a bunch of rookies or whatever, these guys who you're not feeling great about or they're pure contingent plays. On this room, I think I could take a crack at a wider range of outcomes running back. And I do think the range of outcomes for McLaughlin is pretty wide. So I kind of like getting him as part of this room. So we're now up to a 2-5-7-1 build. We're definitely getting one more tight end. And then I think we kind of have a lot of flexibility with how we play this. It seems like the quarterbacks are really falling in this room. So we could do something where, you know, we tack on like an Aaron Rodgers as a third QB, super cheap. We could do something like, or Conklin's already gone. I was going to say we could do like a Conklin, Corley, Rodgers thing if we wanted, but the quarterback's probably the least of my priorities. We need one more running back with some juice. And maybe one more wide receiver. I think that's probably what it is. It's probably a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. I do click Noah Fant a good bit. Is Noah Fant the pick here? We have one correlation with Minnesota in week 16. Wide receivers, we're kind of in a dead range here. Tyler Boyd could be another interesting one as like a bring back. Should we just grab Noah Fant for the millionth time? Most of these running backs feel pretty similar to me. We'll grab Noah Fant. Can probably be done at tight end there. Yeah, people talking about Jonnu Smith. I like Jonnu as well. He went a couple picks before me. I think Jonnu's definitely in that conversation. I did see some of the Mike McDaniel coach speak about him. It's so funny. Like, I've been thinking about this with regards to Tony Pollard and how our perception of players change. I mean, you remember when Jonnu Smith came into the league and he was like considered one of these super athletic, versatile tight ends. And then, I mean, I guess maybe some people still think of him, but how he's been utilized or deployed these past couple years, he now just feels like a boring tight end, like a low upside. But when he came into the league, he was supposed to be this guy that was going to be, you know, this Swiss Army knife used by the offense. And that's actually how it sounds like Mike McDaniel wants to use him more. It's similar to the Tony Pollard stuff. Like, I mean, I just talked about Tony Pollard being a gross click at pick 100. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get some plotter carries from Tony Pollard this year. Maybe he'll get a ton of goal line, you know, work and a revamped Titans offense. It's like last year we were taking Tony Pollard in the second round because we thought he was the most electric space back in the league. It's wild how those perceptions change. And then it's our job to untangle. Was this an actual regression from them, from an athleticism standpoint, from who they are? Or is it from a utilization standpoint that the team and the offense and the creativity was lacking, and that's what stunted them temporarily? At least you don't have to pay a lot to find out. Tony Pollard in the at pick 100 is a lot better than at pick 14. I guess Jonnu Smith has never been that high of a pick. I think like the Jonnu bet is just who was the tight end on the Dolphins we were clicking a little bit last year? What was his name? Durham Smythe. At least it's like Jonnu Smith is going to be a more enjoyable version of the Durham Smythe click. See, look at this Rodgers fall. Do we get a third QB at these prices? I mean, Tank would be another correlation piece here. The wide receivers got really picked over. Like, I don't know if any of these wide receivers do anything for me. I think I'm gonna grab Rodgers. It's so freaking gross, but a 50 pick ADP value to have a third stack here. Why not? Come back, Aaron. Have we found Aaron Rodgers? Do we know where Aaron Rodgers is yet? On Thursday in the Fantasy Life newsletter, I was writing about him. He was MIA, completely MIA, didn't show up at minicamp. Who cares? I don't care that he's missing minicamp, but I want to know where he is. Where the hell is this guy I just took as my third quarterback at pick 200? If a player like, you know, Jalen McMillan or Devontae Walker was available, I do think I would have gone there for my 8th wide receiver. But I think this is fine as a 7 wide receiver team. We took 5 wide receivers through 65 picks and then grabbed 2 more rookies on there. And I think what I do now, I think I take the plunge on Tank Bigsby. I know you guys hate it, but this exercise has been all about drafting running backs no one likes. So what better way to put a bow on it than with one more correlated piece on the Jacksonville Jaguars than Tank Bigsby? Let's make sure I'm not missing anything else. Done at quarterback. I think this is Tank Bigsby, guys. I think it's Tank Bigsby. It is what it is. It is what it is. 3, 6, 7, 2. Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, Jaleel McLaughlin, Tank Bigsby, Puka Nacua, Brandon Aiyuk, Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas, Ricky Pearsall, and Malachi Corley, Sam Laporta, and Noah Fant. I do kind of like how these pieces come together and that like a lot of this back end wide receiver production might take a few weeks to get rolling. Let these rookies find their sea legs here. Worthy, Thomas, Pearsall, Corley. I mean, Pearsall could be a 0 for a good chunk of the year. But then you got it covered. All these old running backs say, fear not. You rookies, you stay on ice. You ease into this whole NFL thing. Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler are like, we got this. We'll put this team on your back to start the year. Draft 51 in the books. Draft 51. Today is June 17th. Bbmv 3672. This is my funnest part. You get to feel like you're like coordinating a mission, or you are on a naval cruiser. 617 Bbmv 3672 SF JAX NYJ. Copy 617 Bbmv 3672 SF Jax NY. Roger that. 611 Swole 3582 SF MIA. That actually sounds good. SF MIA. Missing in action? No. Just Miami, sir. Just Miami, sir. Stand down. This is my favorite of all the like best ball bro things, that everyone is so terrified that Best Ball Mania is going to fill in mid-August. I really do not think that is going to happen. Underdog can control the fill rates of these tournaments however they want. If they want Best Ball Mania to fill in mid-August, it'll fill in mid-August. If they want it to fill on or around September 1st, it'll fill on or around September 1st. So unless you think Underdog has a reason for wanting it to fill on August 15th, I don't think it's going to fill on August 15th. That said, we are 25% of the way done. So I'm not even behind on my fill rate. I'm way ahead. I'm at 51. So I'm over 30%. And the overall fill rate's at 25%. We ski out in front of avalanches, and we ski out in front of BBM fill rates. Exactly. That's between the correlations in the bye weeks, C3, B2, and then listing off our gibberish that describes our teams. We are just all playing fantasy football battleship. What is up, Ben? GM from Vegas. Do you live in Vegas, or are you just there partaking in the sights and the sounds? Yeah, you know what? Thank you for reminding me. Don't forget about the New Balance note in there. We need to add, we're going to get rid of New York in here. We're going to call this BBB NB. We will remember, well, because I'll be reading through these and I'll be like BBB, BBNB. Oh, no. Best Ball Breakfast, New Balance. 617 BBNB 3672 SF Jax. Free tennis shoes for all of the chat when Peter wins $1.5 million thanks to Tank Bigsby scoring 2 Week 17 touchdowns. It is definitely tank top season. It's been hot around here. Fantasy Football Garage. I've been MIA in Miami. Highly recommend it. It is a great place. I love Miami. Overweight on fill rate. How did our other friends turn out? How did B-Spurf turn out here? We will have Shawn Siegele joining us here shortly for a BBM draft. B-Spurf was hating this draft. Ends up with a 3-4-9-2, Geno, Bryce, Kirk, CMC, Henry, Montgomery, Brooks. That is a super fun, hyper fragile room. I do love that room. And if you're going to play that game, if you're going to take CMC and Derrick Henry in the first 50 picks in a wide receiver avalanche room, this is absolutely how your running back room has to look. I love it. And then let's see how many we get to 9 wide receivers here. Debo, DK Metcalf, Rashee Rice, Palmer, Wicks, Leggett, QJ, Rondell Moore, Brendan Rice, and then Dalton Kincaid and Cole Kmet. Yeah, I mean, I think from a capital allocation standpoint, I think you did well. I think you took the foot off the gas. I guess my only thing would be maybe you go wide receiver here at 93 and then do like a rookie running back in the 130 to 140 range. But all of the good wide receivers had been wiped out there anyways. So I don't even think that's too bad. Let's see how my guy Nick did. Shout out to Nick, one of the producers around here on the YouTube channel, helps me out with a lot of stuff. Has a 3-6-7-2 build, Caleb, Tua, and Drake May. Little 0 RB room here with Mostert, Brian Robinson, Charbonnet, Ty Chandler, Antonio Gibson, Deontay Foreman. Those are funner 0 running back picks. Slightly sexier than my New Balance room. Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, JSN, Keon Coleman, Javon Baker. Nick was not waking up today and getting buried by a wide receiver avalanche. 6 wide receivers, 374 picks, plus Travis Kelce. Full-on 0 RB bro room from Nick. I would expect nothing less. And then gets Drake May at 215. Kind of in a similar spot as me, where you have Caleb and Tua. You could certainly rock those two as a 2-quarterback room. But then everything else gets wiped. That is the thing, too. I forget who was talking about that, but how, leaning a little bit more into the 3-quarterback builds now, because it is hard to find 17th and 18th round picks where you feel really good about them, both the upside and them not being zeros, especially when you're in a sharp room, right? Like if you're in a sharp room and all the fun rookies, the Devontae Walkers, the Jalen McMillans, the Braylon Allens, those guys are all off the board, and you're sitting around and you're like, yeah, I guess I could take fucking Zay Jones. Yeah, I could take fucking Tyler Boyd. Or I could just do a 3-quarterback build and enjoy the benefits of having 3 different stacks set up, which is kind of what happened to me with this Aaron Rodgers pick. Yeah, we don't have to really worry about not getting Brock Bowers for Shawn. I just try to hold him off for a few rounds. It's like, it's like like a horse, in the gate right before the race starts. Or no, I need a better analogy. It's like a police dog. You know how they have the German Shepherds and they kind of have their hand on the collar and they're ready to let the dog off so he can go hunt for something or sniff around or find the narcotics. And the dog is just rearing to go. That's how I am with Shawn. It's like, all right, 5th round. And Shawn's like starting to get antsy for Brock Bowers. And it's like 6th round. I'm like, easy. 7th round. And it's like to pick 84. And I'm like, Shawn, I think we can get him in the 90s. And then the 8th round comes and I let him off. I don't know how that ended. With Shawn devouring Brock Bowers. Shawn definitely has that dog in him. I need to upload his ranks here too. I need to upload Shawn's ranks for this draft. Shawn sent me over a fresh batch of ranks. I don't know what the big changes were. Shawn's ranks look like how the Best Ball Breakfast draft went. Christian McCaffrey at 1-4. I think that might be new. I'm pretty sure he had Christian McCaffrey at 1-2 before. So we're going to get to talk to Shawn about that. Benjamin, 500 plus watching, under 100 likes. Come on, hit the like button. Don't be lazy, ungrateful bots. Thank you, Benjamin, for that. Yes, if you guys are new around here, you're not subscribed, would love it if you did hit that subscribe button for us. We are here every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Generally been doing 4 different Best Ball Mania drafts. One of the only places I'm really drafting Best Ball Mania teams now. It's here on the Swolecast on Wednesdays, and then the occasional Cardio Club draft as well. But otherwise, keeping my Best Ball Mania entries mostly confined to Best Ball Breakfast. And then also really recommend checking out the Deposit Kingdom channel. This is the live stream channel. The Deposit Kingdom channel is where I'm working on weekly produced videos, working with editors on there. Have been really happy with how those have been turning out. It's basically, if you don't have time to watch 4-hour live streams every week. I'm trying to take all of the best ideas, the best nuggets, the best strategy, the insights we've learned from doing drafts with smart people and from battling you guys in wide receiver avalanche rooms and condensing those all into tightly actionable videos on the Deposit Kingdom channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed over there, and we will have a ton more content coming out over the course of the summer. It's starting to feel real. We're June 17th. It's, the casuals are starting to think a little bit more about fantasy football. Speaking of which, we actually just got our, the Fantasy Life magazine is about to hit newsstands here soon. I was able to contribute a few different pieces to the Fantasy Life magazine, which is pretty fun here. I'll pull up this photo of Cooter Doodle here. Posing with the new Fantasy Life mag like men do with their fish. But we do have the new mag. I have a couple of mine over here. We got 2 different covers. Cooter Doodle sporting the CMC one. We got the Joe Burrow one here. Fulfilled my life's mission about writing about zero RB for people who are going to grab this at a Hudson newsstand at the airport. These poor guys, someone's going to buy the Fantasy Life mag, sit down on their plane. Who are the best sleepers? Who's the guy I have to draft this year? And he's like, I got to listen to this guy ramble about zero RB for 2,000 words. Get the fuck out of here. Some guy's going to have a bad flight. He's going to have a bad flight having to read my zero RB propaganda. But we did it. We brought zero RB to the people. I believe you can actually buy these as well if you just want to get a copy of this. I'll drop the link down here. There is the magazine shop. Ooh, you can even pick which cover you want here. But yeah, that was very fun to get to be in that. And I will, I'm actually traveling this week. We're going back to Colorado, taking April on our first plane trip. So maybe I can try to find one of these in the wild as well. I'm going to get some more coffee here, and then we're going to welcome Shawn on to draft. Getting parched. Need the pre-coffee water pull here. Yeah, I've been getting this comment a lot. Love going to home league drafts where the guys show up with a magazine that is 6 weeks old. All of my pieces in this are completely evergreen. That's what I'm joking, that it's the stuff people don't want. It's all zero RB strategy. I actually have a piece about elite tight end strategy in here. We had to file these pieces a little bit ago for the timeline, but unfortunately, unless someone gets hurt, my stuff is going to remain evergreen. That's the beauty about talking about zero RB. It just remains great no matter what happens. Are these sold at Walmart? I think on the post here, it says where here, I'll show you the list. You can get these at, let me move your comment so you can see it. Down on the board, yes, Walmart, Target, CVS Pharmacy, Walgreens, Barnes & Noble, and then airport terminals. You can tag me when you find my zero RB piece in the wild. What's up, Evan? Verzing, what is the extension you were using while drafting last year that shows exposure percentage in week 17 games? Yes, I'm using that this year as well. It is the Rick Draft Caddy. I have not layered on my exposures yet to because I didn't want to necessarily get impacted by them yet. I know last year when I pulled those on early, I found myself kind of balancing my exposures a little too much, I think. And this year I've been wanting to default to my ranks early on. But some of the stuff I was showing with the correlations and the bye weeks and all that stuff, that's the Brick Draft Caddy. So that's the draftcaddy.com. You can do a 2-day free trial, and then it's $25 a month. There's a Chrome extension. You can do it in Mozilla. If you have questions, you can ask Brian Hooper, aka Brick75, about that. But without further ado, guys, it is now time for the Best Ball Banana Stand. right, Shawn, Siegele, welcome to Best Ball Breakfast. This is the Best Ball Banana Stand where myself, Pete Overzet, and Shawn draft a Best Ball Mania 5 team. We battle wide receiver avalanches, try to go and get our player archetypes while also juggling Week 17 correlation and all of the other things we need to do to take down the $1.5 million top prize in these tournaments. Shawn, excited to draft with you yet again this morning.
Yeah, the last several drafts have gone very well. And then, I'm pretty excited. I've had a chance to do some drafts myself that also went much better than it would seem possible based on ADP. And so I'll talk a little bit about that on RotoViz here soon, because there's a little bit of a hack you can maybe use depending. But Pete, I think there are a lot of constructions, including some contrarian constructions that we could potentially try, over the next several weeks and months, if we get the right spot, if the draft falls in a certain way. Playing with a few of those will also be fun. Well, the teams we've been drafting, we've got a player who's going to rise like 3 rounds on a pretty good chunk of our team. So I think we're off to a fast start.
Oh man, is this someone, should I know the answer to this, who this player is? Are we talking about one Mr. Brock Bowers, or is this somebody else?
Well, I was working on a little write-up for Bowers. And again, it's not that the other, players are not good, because they're good, right? But when you think about drafting Bowers where he's being drafted, it's a little bit like if you were going to take Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors, in that, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin type of range where, those guys are good players, right? But obviously there's a big gap between where those guys are going and where those rookie receivers are going. That's kind of what I feel we're getting when you're drafting Brock Bowers behind guys like Jake Ferguson, Evan Ingram, and obviously Njoku goes ahead of Bowers quite often as well.
Well, you know what? We'll save the Bowers talk for the Bowers portion of the show. But I do think that is a compelling argument to be made of okay, these rookie wide receivers with incredible pedigree are getting drafted along elites who've been doing it for a long time. And yet Brock Bowers is not being drafted even within that range that everyone is kind of agreeing to draft elite tight ends, rounds 4 through 6. So that is an interesting dynamic and kind of a fun part of your entire thesis on the Brock Bowers is you're getting a talent arbitrage that is actually hard to come by in underdog drafts because the market doesn't allow you to get that at wide receiver anymore. All of those profiles are priced up in a big way, but Bowers isn't.
So
Shawn,
we'll see if that plays out during the season.
Yeah, I love when you just reveal just a hint of nervousness about the Brock Bowers stuff. We are off to the races in a Best Ball Mania draft. Shawn, we have the 1-3. We're on the clock. I have your ranks pulled in. You do conspicuously have CMC at 4. My first room, Shawn, was an absolute crazy wide receiver avalanche. So I have no problem taking Jamar Chase here. Or do you want to do Christian McCaffrey?
Well, this might be our chance to get some McCaffrey exposure. I also have almost no Chase. So either of those picks, I think, is a lot of fun.
Shawn, I recognize all of these names. In the first draft was just absurd. And so I'm doing the unthinkable and I'm taking Jamar Chase over Christian McCaffrey right now so we can have a more enjoyable experience.
Good. And, like you said, that is where I have him ranked.
Right. And I was like, I said to Shawn, I was like, or this is what I was thinking real quick when I had 10 seconds there. I was like, we can take CMC and have our last 4 picks be Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Jalen Hyatt, and Wan'Dale Robinson. Or we could take Jamar Chase and do something else.
Yeah, and there are a few additional late round wide receiver guys that I think you can feather in there a bit. I'll have a piece out on that soon as well. But I do find that one of the things that I've done a couple times recently is that I have moved Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson up just slightly, and basically to around where ADP is. And I do think that you can occasionally draft them in the first round. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if one of those 2 players is on the winning team. And it's very straightforward how you would get to that. I also even think that there is that possibility that, and maybe that certainly you could have Jonathan Taylor and Devon Achane on the team that wins. I don't even think it's impossible that you could have those guys with a Robinson or a Hall, which again, at that point, you're going to have to figure out how to have addressed some of those other positions in a creative way. And you're probably going to have one of your late wide receivers hit. I do think there are some guys late who answer some of those questions, but obviously if you're picking them in every draft, then you open yourself up to some serious problems if they don't.
I meant to ask you, because we have gotten a lot of positive Braylon Allen steam from camp, basically getting confirmation he is the number 2 there. And then on top of it, starting to get some rumblings that they like him on passing downs a bit, that he might not be just a limited kind of early down between the tackles rusher. Has that complicated your Breece Hall thesis at all, or do you still view that as kind of a pure contingent kind of click late?
I think it's probably almost purely contingent, in part because Hall is just simply so good. And even, a starting caliber running back is not going to do much to move the needle when it comes to how good he is. But, his health has always been a little bit in question. And I mean, the Jets have very clearly gone out and said, we want to have lots of running back depth. That is a little bit problematic in that if there weren't any risk, then they probably wouldn't have given over so many resources to that pursuit.
Yep. All right, Shawn, we are on the clock here. JT has fallen. Wide receivers, we're looking at like Diggs, Evans, Devontae Smith. How do you think we play this here?
Yeah, well, I do think that Jonathan Taylor is pretty interesting since we didn't go with Christian McCaffrey. I also think that Diggs, even though it is ahead of ADP, is an undervalued play.
Yeah, let's do Diggs, because I guess the question there is what on that 2v2, because if we do just go JT Chase, I'm like, what do you like better, CMC Diggs or Chase JT? Do you have a lean on that 2v2?
I think it's about the same. Jonathan Taylor is undervalued.
Yes.
And because of the way this particular room is going to go, he came to us below ADP, but that's also the reason to actually continue to avoid that position.
Yeah. And it's the exact dynamic I was talking about in the first draft, where I'm always careful about taking the first running back value, because that generally means there are a lot more coming. And so maybe, Shawn, we could have played it where we got JT first and then Diggs comes back. But considering Devontae, Evans, and Metcalf come off the board, probably doesn't. So JT now comes back. Do you want to grab him here in the third?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I mean, I do think that the next receivers up are also viable plays, but I think in the 4-5 range, when we're likely trying to get those next couple of receivers, that we'll still have some receiver depth there. And Jonathan Taylor, I mean, obviously everyone knows this. He's not that far from having been the 101. One of the things you saw, I believe, in week 18 last season, as they're battling for that playoff spot, is you did finally get the long run. I actually think that either direction on Anthony Richardson, you are set up for Jonathan Taylor to work. If you believe that Richardson is going to be a superstar, then that offense is going to score a ton of points. And even if Richardson takes some of the touchdowns and you don't get a lot of running back passes, which you probably won't, Jonathan Taylor is going to still score so many touchdowns himself. And then they're going to run a lot of plays, which means he's still going to touch the ball a lot. He's going to, in terms of the actual yards per carry average, that's probably less important than the overall fact that he's going to be efficient, and he's going to break off the long games unless he's completely and totally done. Is there a chance that his talent has disappeared in a way that won't be the case for those, the 4 guys who went in the first 18 picks? That possibility always exists as these guys get a little bit older. But I think that because he was so bland last year compared to what he's been, people aren't thinking through the scenarios properly and aren't thinking through his talent properly. The other thing is that if Anthony Richardson gets injured or struggles, then you're going to get an absolute ton of Jonathan Taylor in an offense where the receivers can still threaten the defense and where you have, again, a lot of plays and an elite play caller. So I think either way, Taylor is set up to be kind of a high floor, and then especially on a weekly basis, a high ceiling kind of player.
Yeah, and we saw that play out last year, right? When they went so run heavy with both Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. And then, I mean, they don't have anyone behind JT now who's as intriguing as Zach Moss was. Like, they like Zach Moss a lot, allowing him to kind of be a full bell cow there for stretches. I mean, I haven't seen anything in that backfield that would indicate it wouldn't just dissolve into a total timeshare if JT wasn't available.
Yeah, so I think that you got to play the talent thesis with him and remember, again, that he was the one, but also, I mean, he was one of the greatest college running backs ever because his size, speed package is just so unique. I mean, you're getting so much of what you get from Breece Hall, just so much less expensively.
So, Shawn, we can decide, can we afford grabbing the elite tight end here? We do have Trey McBride right at ADP. Probably want to avoid the running back. There are receivers we like here. What do you think the way to play this is?
I think it might be we're still taking the tight end and then getting a receiver here on the wrap.
Yeah, let's grab Trey McBride here right at 46. How have your elite tight end exposures shook out so far? I'm going to guess McBride or Kincaid is your most drafted.
Yeah, I have a ton of both of those guys. I have a pretty decent amount of Laporta. One of the things when you like all of them, well, you like most of them. I'm not really drafting Travis Kelce, even though I think that his price is certainly fine. You can understand how he would hit again. I'm maybe not as high on Mark Andrews, but when you're trying to build through that entire group, you end up getting pretty good prices and the one that sort of fits what you're doing in any given draft.
Let's see, Shawn. Jayden Reed, our top available wide receiver, not even too far ahead of ADP. Is that our way to stay ahead of this avalanche?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So we grab Jayden Reed here. The team through 5 rounds. We got JT, we got Jamar Chase, Diggs, Jayden Reed, and then Trey McBride. I wanted to ask you, Shawn, I know you missed this. There's been lots of elite tight end discourse in debate. And I was laughing because it reminded me a lot of the early 0RB debates where people are getting hung up on the semantics of what elite means. How do you define an elite tight end? And obviously people are going to have different thresholds for it, but like when you hear that, like through what lens are you viewing an elite tight end?
I'm basically looking for a guy who is going to give you somewhat consistent scoring. He's going to give you a lot of yardage in addition to the tight ends. So, to the touchdown. So he's not a touchdown play exclusively like some of the players are. And that, from the course of the full season perspective, you could almost double. One of the things when you go through and you look at the scoring for the elite guys versus everybody else is that, you start to get in these situations where this top tier is scoring twice as many points. And it's not, you don't have to work through too many different types of simulations to understand how that is going to be just very difference making, especially if you have two. Now, certainly the teams that win are almost certainly going to be the teams that stay healthy. But even then, you're actually opening up a path where you could suffer an injury and maybe still go through appropriately. But to have a guy who could also fit into the flex. So you're working through that and they're giving you such a competitive advantage throughout the course of the full season. But then again, because they're also a player who has high overall volume, they're going to get the receptions, they're going to get the yardage, and then they're going to have those touchdown weeks on top of it, the spike week potential for those players as you're trying to get through. And Sam Laporta was a great example last season in terms of being able to get through a playoff week specifically because of him. I think when you're getting all three of those things together, then the advantages are numerous in terms of what that does. And it sets up so nicely for 2024 because I don't think that some of the trade-offs in the past exactly work the same way here, in part because you do have multiple options. You don't have to be consistently reaching for one guy to where you're paying a lot, but then also if that player gets hurt, like a Rob Gronkowski often did, then it really destroys what you were trying to do.
And that's interesting too, like talking about how much of a touchdown merchant are they. Trey McBride and Dalton Kincaid, they did it a lot more on volume and less through touchdowns. So is that something too where you see the upside? Like if they positively regress on touchdowns but are still earning that consistent volume, they could have that legendary tight end season.
Well, and we think that the Bills especially, and certainly the Cardinals, based on the Harrison prices and kind of where they should be going. I mean, you're expecting the Cardinals to put up a lot of points this year as well.
Shawn, we're on the clock here. JSN is our highest ranked wide receiver. We also have some interesting running back names, but I am worrying a little bit about the wide receiver talent drying up here.
Yeah, I think going for JSN, if you're comfortable with that, is the way to play it.
Yeah, I definitely am, because I love Walker. I like Aaron Jones, Mixon. None of those guys necessarily separate from me in just such a massive way, in that I feel like one of them will come back, as opposed to if we played at wide receiver. I mean, Ladd comes off the board, and then you're immediately into Watson, Jameson Williams territory, and kind of some bigger ADP reaches there.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we're almost certainly going to get some guys at this next pick. It would have been interesting there if Kittle had come through.
Yeah, doing the double. So we got Walker, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon at the top of the board. Do you have a preference there, or another thing I'm not seeing?
Well, I really like Walker. If you wanted to take our sort of sole Mixon share at this point, that would also be okay, although maybe it doesn't set up some other things quite as well.
Yeah, you know what? I think because we had JSN, I kind of am fine to just kind of continue to make that bet on Seattle. Maybe if we didn't have JSN and we're just kind of viewing all of those in an uncorrelated vacuum, Mixon. But yeah, Mixon has definitely been falling. I guess all of these guys have. Rachaad White, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon are routinely falling. But yeah, maybe it would have been a chance to get Mixon there, but we didn't have. I guess, you know what? I'm an idiot, because we had Stefon Diggs. So Joe Mixon fit that bill too. So maybe we should have pulled the trigger on that.
Where are you on a guy like Mixon who doesn't get anything that's not blocked and doesn't get everything that is blocked, but is going to be in this offense that, I mean, I actually think that the Houston offense is still somewhat significantly undervalued in terms of prices. It's going to score that many points.
I know. I was reviewing some of my exposures. We on Ship Chasing last week, we were doing our scariest fades, and like almost completely accidentally, I have 2% CJ Stroud, and I was terrified to see that number. And I was like resolving to make sure I changed that. Yeah, I have no problem with the Joe Mixon stuff, because it's basically like, aren't you close to being able to run back the exact situation he had in Cincinnati with maybe even a slightly better offense and even slightly less competition from an RB2? So it's like, to me, it's really hard to poke holes in him as a pick, because even in the worst case scenarios, it's like, if you're the goal line back on the Houston Texans, like if you're Devin Singletary, what happened last year, I mean, that's an absolute, smash at these prices.
And you think about Mixon, and again, how some of these dynamics will work for, if the right thing hit in the playoffs, where I believe it was last season, certainly one of these recent seasons, you go through and like the first 6 weeks, his fantasy points over expectation are ludicrous. And it's like -5, -4, -6, -3. And you're like, Joe Mixon is to not scoring points what Devon Achane was to scoring points over expectation. He's like giving up a touchdown's worth of value the other way. And then at the tail end of that streak, he goes off for 40, because the Bengals offense continually put him into this situation where if you just have one game where you score some touchdowns and don't massively underperform, then it's a spike week that few other players can match. I guess because the talent gap between him and Dameon Pierce, even though Pierce was such a bust last year, is maybe, I completely agree that there's less competition from the running back too. My thought might be the running back too, even with that being the case, might still do it.
Have you been sprinkling in any Dameon Pierce at the end of your drafts?
They've been talking him up, or at least it seems to me like they are. So I have been, but it certainly is like only when the other options have dried up.
Yeah. That makes sense. Shawn, it's a devastating day. We got the wrong room for getting Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers goes at 83. This team will not have Brock Bowers on it. It could potentially have Joe Burrow, around past ADP stacked up with Jamar Chase. This is a pretty picked over portion of the wide receivers. And we could also take the plunge on a running back, although no huge ADP values there. Do you have any thoughts?
I don't know how good you think the chances are for Burrow to swing back through, it might be interesting to take Swift here and see.
Yeah, I know the Higgins drafter is on the complete opposite side of the board, so it's worth risking if both Nick and B-Spurf on the turns already have quarterbacks. They're also both sharp drafters who I don't think are going to take Joe Burrow unstacked. So I think that was the smart call there because they're also one running back teams as well. So Swift probably not coming back around.
And one of the things that has unlocked just so much that you can do from a structural perspective this season, and you and I have talked about this a little bit before, but in the past, there are going to be some things that you maybe need to do to balance out zero RB. Now, obviously, we have Taylor early, so we've got the 3 guys here. But this Walker, Swift, and then in many cases, there is a third, I wouldn't say elite, but a starting running back with the potential to score a ton of points that comes up in this next range, where when you have 3 of those guys, you can actually play zero RB and also not use even that many slots for the running back position, which, I mean, there are a variety of benefits to that, obviously, but one of them is it does free you up to do the double elite tight end that we were talking about earlier. Pete, I think you're muted there.
Oops, my bad there. We did take Joe Burrow, Shawn, to stack up with Jamar Chase, which I like. You know, if we're going to pass on CMC, you know, we're going to need the legendary year from Jamar Chase, and Burrow would be a massive part of that. Yeah, to going back to your point about creative ways to do zero RB, and I made a video over on the Deposit Kingdom channel this week, kind of going through my takeaways through 50 drafts and kind of how these boards play out. And, you know, there's never any hard and fast rules, but one I mentioned was, you know, I've been wanting at least 4 wide receivers through 7 rounds, you know, and it gets really hard to make the teams work from a wide receiver fire standpoint when we don't do that. And we did that in this draft. We had, you know, 4 through 6. And so then I start to think, all right, that gives me 3 spots to play with, right? That aren't that. I'm often doing an elite tight end. And then the kind of question there is, are you getting to a 5th wide receiver? Are you grabbing an elite quarterback? But if you do kind of view it through that lens and you have those 3 non-wide receiver picks, there are a lot of fun ways to mix and match that around your offensive firepower.
And it frees you up to do that Hall or Robinson pick. If you like those guys, it frees you up to do something like we did today. I do think the other thing that I tend to not do, because I like both the quarterback window so much this year, and I like doing maybe 1 QB window and then the 2 late guys, but it does allow you to pick a CJ Stroud. And, you know, for the reasons that we've discussed, there is the potential for him to, I think that there's a really strong chance that if a QB has the type of season that Mahomes had just a couple years ago, and certainly plenty of players have had. I mean, this is a season that I think could be similar to that epic Denver season for Peyton Manning, where just kind of working through all of the different permutations of it with those 3 receivers and what Stroud did as a rookie. I think it's even hard for me to think through and just fully internalize how much they actually lost from their players missing so much time last season, and even what, you know, 2023 could have been.
One thing I like about grabbing Joe Burrow there for us is knowing, like, okay, Jordan Love would have been another stacking option. JSN really the only other one, because Kyler was off the board. We knew Jordan Love wasn't going to wrap around. Really just leaves Geno there. And so obviously we're going to probably build out a secondary backdoor stack at some point, but being able to lock up the 1 to give us a little more flexibility. Whereas if we're in this spot without Joe Burrow, we're really kind of starting to stare down the barrel of having to build out multiple backdoor stacks.
Yeah, it's a very nice fit. It is one of the things that does seem to work nicely for your teams when you take Chase, is that you can often put Burrow in there inexpensively.
Most of our Burrow teams have Chase Brown. He comes off the board. We're on the clock. Your top available player is a wide receiver with Jerry Jeudy just slightly ahead of ADP. The running back value is Devin Singletary. What's the click here?
Yeah, let's maybe hit on Singletary and see what happens.
I was hoping for more of a definitive reason for Singletary than
well,
let's see what happens.
Ben and I talked a lot about Singletary on a recent Stealing Bananas as well. And Pete, I mean, I think you and I have also where,
yeah,
I mean, he's a guy who has put up these really, really strong evasion rates, even though the yards that go with it aren't always what you're looking for. And it is continuing to seem more and more. And we discussed this when we took Kyren Tracy last week, but I think it's going to be a Singletary backfield where he takes a lot more of the work than people are expecting.
We're on the clock, Shawn. Looks like a running back pick for us by ADP. Mike Williams is the faller. Do you have a click here?
Well, I think that when we're so strong at running back, it really does free us up to take Miller and just play that scenario where he ends up being essentially this year's Kyren Williams.
How much, because we did get the news with Kamara, he's holding out, he wants a new contract. Lots of questions about how much leverage does a guy like him at this stage of his career have in this spot. I know you were in on Kendre well before even that news, but are you envisioning a little bit of a rise with Kendre's ADP over the coming months?
Yeah, and you could see it transpire exactly the way that we got last year with the Rams, where the apparent incumbent really does get himself on the outs. We've been dealing with this issue with Kamara for a while, where it moved from elite efficiency, along with obviously good volume, but to a point where he's thriving because there's so many forced touches. They don't have a different way they can go. Obviously, Miller was either completely out or very limited for big chunks of last season when they thought he was going to be, the 1B and a dynamic one. Then you see what he could do late in the season. You remember what he was in his final year in college. And I mean, I think a lot of people are probably still not as high as I was on him, just in terms of being a prospect who could come in and make a big difference there. Certainly they don't have much in that offense other than Olave. I could see the offense functioning better in 2024, but it really being those two guys, Olave and Miller. You're hoping that you don't get too many, goal line touches vultured by Taysom Hill.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing with Juwan Johnson also now out, and it's just like every year it seems to be more excuses to feature Taysom Hill. Speaking of which, I do know over on ADP Chasing today, Pat, Sam Sherman, Davis Maddock, and I believe Mike Leone's actually guesting with them. So they'll be running through all of the ADPs, risers and fallers, and I'm sure touching on the Saints guys with both the Juwan Johnson and Alvin Kamara news, shaking things up. Shawn, I'm going to recap our team here for the audio listeners. If you guys are listening to this on the Best Ball Banana Stand feed on the RotoViz airwaves, you can always check out the video versions on my YouTube channel and vice versa. If you guys aren't able to watch the whole show, check out the audio recap there. We got Joe Burrow at quarterback, up to 5 running backs, JT, Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Swift, Devin Singletary, and Kendre Miller. Still rocking our 4 early wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Stefon Diggs, Jayden Reed, and JSN. And then we do have Trey McBride at tight end for us. And we'll see how we're going to play this, Shawn. It is still been hard to come by wide receivers here. This would probably be the spot if we needed to get Jermaine Burton for a double stack. I know it doesn't look like you're too high on him. How do you think we play this? Freiermuth as a tight end? Different ways we could go.
Well, let's play Freiermuth here. Obviously, he's been generating whatever buzz you can actually say matters out of Pittsburgh. He is one of those guys who looked like he was going to break out and possibly join that elite tight end group, and then not being completely healthy, having the offense sort of implode last season, stalled out his growth. I think he's an interesting name to get in that range to pair with a Trey McBride. It was causing me to chuckle because you were referring to our first round pick as helping us avoid Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin, and here we are.
I know that's what happens. I mean, does the correlation with Burton not push him up for you more, or it's still a hard click for you?
That's good. Yeah.
Okay. Let's but I do want to get your thoughts on him because it does seem like you have him ranked a little bit lower than maybe even consensus ADP, or is that more just like you like a couple of those other guys more than him and it's not necessarily a reflection of him?
I think that he's probably a little bit of a thinner pick than what ADP indicates. So it's one of those where I think that he probably makes some vertical plays this year. It's a good fit with the team that we have. I mean, he's got some, maybe mild character issues. Similar to Adonai Mitchell, for example, you really wanted to see more overall production from him. Now, he was in some situations that mitigated the overall results to an extent, but I mean, he's another one of these guys like a Lad McConkey where you're like, he was overshadowed by other people that maybe we're not looking at in the same light. And yet certainly a lot of draft experts like him. And I think that if it's a thinner pick, it has to be someone who fits the build and has that vertical element to where they're not going to need target volume necessarily to score, because I would be pretty surprised if he gets that. I mean, I think that their sort of late round rookie from last season who did some interesting things is maybe a better pick. I mean, if you had a few more rounds, it would maybe be a more interesting pick than Burton. But I mean, you don't have those rounds.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned him because I've seen some good stuff about him, pretty interesting prospect. I'm talking about Yoshivas there, and I know Shawn was as well. I think I haven't drafted him in BBM yet. I did draft him in some of the pre-draft, the big board contests, because we didn't know if the Bengals were going to be taking someone. But I don't even think necessarily on a build like this, like him as an 18th round flyer is the worst idea either. If we don't find any wide receivers we like, as I watched Shawn at 157 Mims, 159 Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson going way ahead of ADP. What is this? 2023 again, Shawn, Troy Franklin. This is the beauty of a best ball breakfast stream when you have Troy Franklin go ahead of Quentin Johnston, because I don't even believe that normally happens in regular drafts there.
We'll make some interesting, but one of the things that I think is probably a mistake in retrospect, but when we're already under some pressure, one of the reasons I was thinking to pass on Jeudy is just that, 3 of your first 5 receivers are going to have that same bye.
Yeah.
But I think now you go back and just go ahead and put him on the roster.
Yeah. Let's see. It definitely feels like the sweet spot here is a running back. Can we afford a 6th running back on this build, or do we need to keep catching up at wide receiver?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a reach on someone at receiver. Anybody that you kind of really like here?
Let's see here. Well, if we're just going to have fun today, like Jalen McMillan's been getting a ton of positive buzz lately. Also has a different bye week than our others. And it seems like we're at the point in this draft where we can throw out ADP. This is also the point too, objectively. I did some work earlier this offseason on the Scroll the F Down video, and ADP ceases to matter around this spot of being like an actual predictor of fantasy points. So a lot of times people freak out and it's like, oh, you're taking, Wan'Dale Robinson here, or Jalen McMillan. It's like, all of these guys have a similar range of outcomes generally. So this is the time to go and get the guys we like. So I grabbed McMillan there, who I saw you had decently high up in your ranks. Do you want to make a similar kind of dart throw pick here, or do you want to grab like the Ray Davis value?
I think I would probably just go ahead and take Walker, because he's a good fit with what we have set up. And I don't think that we can count on people not taking him in this room. And it always hurts me to not take the players like a Ray Davis in this spot. And yet, if we stay at 5 here at running back, this is going to be our best running back room of the entire season still. So
Yes.
I mean, you're hoping that Ray Davis wouldn't score for you very often.
And I will say this, like, for people watching this draft, this is a lot more similar to how Shawn and I's drafts went last year, where it was total avalanche, really having to reach to get wide receivers. I mean, Shawn and I took Tyquan Thornton in a range of the draft that is virtually unspeakable. Like, I will not even utter it on this show again because we were having to catch up. But then on the flip side, our past 2 drafts have been these just really clean, pure zero RB teams where we're able to hit the pockets of the draft board. So this feels a little old school, Shawn, but I do like the variety of us trying to kind of navigate various rooms.
And I'm glad that you picked McMillan. I really love that for this team. He was actually the name I was thinking about when we picked Burton. And I was saying, I think there are some selections that, probably have a lot better chance of paying off. And that was one of the names specifically that I had in mind. I've been working on this big piece about how I think the Seahawks offense is going to work in 2024. And in terms of looking through so many of those things and, making some guesses at what the offensive coordinator might do, it's been interesting to look back at, what Washington has done. And one of the things that you do see there is that, even ignoring the more recent buzz, which the recent buzz makes it more comfortable to pull the trigger. I mean, McMillan was basically the same level of scorer as a Dunze in 2022, right? And there's almost no question that he was a better player in that offense than Jalen Polk. When Colin and I were doing our OT shows with the draft experts, Travis May came on and he's like, Jalen McMillan is a stud. I mean, he's massively undervalued. And so when you're hearing people who are more immersed in the college football side of things saying the same thing that the stats are saying the same things that the team is saying now, it is one of the reasons why I've always loved Chris Godwin, but I do think that he's overvalued at this point, and then McMillan probably is a meaningful threat.
He is interesting to juxtapose with Jermaine Burton, right? Because kind of similar-ish, not saying they're the same type of players, but hey, you're sliding in. You probably can be on the field in 3 wide receiver sets right away, and then kind of trying to figure out where is the upside. Obviously, you have the contingent upside if a player in front of them were to get hurt, but then wondering who can succeed just as a year 1 breakout without that. And you're essentially playing a Joe Burrow tax on Jermaine Burton relative to Jalen McMillan, because people aren't as excited about Baker in that offense, but pretty similar paths to year 1 volume, I'd argue.
Yeah. And McMillan, I think, could get really serious volume if things break the right way, where for a variety of the reasons that we mentioned, Burton, I think, would stay as more of a niche type of player.
Shawn, we are on the clock. Going to have to think through our second quarterback plan here. What do you think we do here? 1-5-7-2 build.
Yeah. I mean, Daniel Jones is probably the guy who works the best without the players, because even coming off the injury, there's eventually some rushing upside there with him.
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to float if we had the time, and we could still do a 3 quarterback build, would be Fields, with a similar thought being we already have Freiermuth. And if we wanted to play it that way.
Yeah, and I think that we can stick with the 2 tight ends. We can stick with the 5 running backs. And so, I mean, this could definitely be another quarterback and another receiver if we want to do that. Is that the same thing you're seeing structurally?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's basically deciding we're for sure going to do an 8th wide receiver, and then kind of deciding, do we want to do a 9th? Or I think we should take Jalen Hyatt to stack with Daniel Jones, and then we can kind of make the pick we want at the end without having max structural flexibility.
Yeah, I agree. And Hyatt is a tricky one there, where I'm extremely high on him. It does make me a little bit nervous that, I mean, this is going to sound funny, but that the Wan'Dale reports have been very positive. Since I have almost 100% Wan'Dale, that is worrisome. But I mean, if Wan'Dale is good as it seems like he's going to be, and you have Malik Neighbors, where does the volume come from for Jalen Hyatt? And yet, I mean, one of the big things in the New York media was that Hyatt has been a lot better, has looked more comfortable, has looked like the progress that he needed to make. I mean, he came in by, most people's accounts as sort of a one-trick pony that was going to need to work on route running and those types of things. They claim that he's looking a lot better. He has the, highlight one-handed catch. And again, you have a vertical guy there. It's easy to sort of forget because he didn't do a ton and because the passing was so poor. I mean, the level of quarterback play last year for the Giants was so poor that it's easy to lose track of the fact that, Jalen Hyatt's one of the fastest players in the NFL. And even if you're saying, well, the offense in college manufactured some production, you don't get behind Alabama for 3 long touchdowns because, you don't have the Jets. And so, again, it's a fit with what we need, which are guys who could score points on lesser volume because lesser volume guys are what's available right now.
Yeah, it's funny because I think my concern, I have a bet with Pat, Jalen Hyatt versus Darius Slayton this year. And to me, that's my main concern with Hyatt is just like, if he's out on the field there in 3 wide receiver sets with Wan'Dale and Neighbors, I think the whole offense is going to be better and more explosive. And I think that'll trickle down to Hyatt being a beneficiary of that. But Pat's in my ear telling me it's Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt isn't going to even be on the field. So that's where my Jalen Hyatt concern comes into. I guess it's less about Wan'Dale and more about Slayton.
I didn't want to mention Slayton, but he is still there.
He is. I've been told by many people he's still there, which is so funny too, because Darius Slayton had been undervalued for years. One of the quintessential like better and best ball players. He's been a guy who has given multiple spike weeks in the fantasy playoffs as well. So I like Darius Slayton, but I like Jalen Hyatt more.
Were you setting us up to take Darius Slayton as our last pick?
I think he's off the board. Normally he's gone. Is he not? Okay, he is on the board here. So maybe if someone doesn't want to snipe us, we can set up the double stack. But I mean, let me recap this team, Shawn, and you kind of think at least positionally what this team needs, or if there's a player you really like. We have Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones at quarterback. We have JT, Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Swift, Devin Singletary, Kendre Miller at running back. Our wide receiver room, Jamar Chase, Diggs, Jayden Reed, JSN, and then we've gone Jermaine Burton, Jalen McMillan, Devontae Walker, and Jalen Hyatt, and then tight end Trey McBride and Pat Freiermuth. So to me, this is either a 3rd quarterback or an 8th running back dart. What do you think? Or wide receiver dart?
We had one of these drafts before where the room was just daring us to take Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. And they are going to dare us again because the 2 drafters in front of us already both have 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah. You have, I think that you can draft Drake May completely by himself because if he hits, it's going to be because he actually does run. And his receivers are so bad. Did Slayton go there? Oh yeah, right before
Slayton went 1 pick ahead, which then that would have been. The Watson stuff gives us a little bit more correlation with Cincinnati, or do you have a wide receiver? What do you think? What pick do you want?
Well, let's go ahead and put Watson on this team.
All right. Probably
we capitulated this time.
We did. You did it feels impossible to click Deshaun Watson. And then the room really said, how impossible? And we took him to pair with Daniel Jones, which I do think it's a little complicated, the stuff with the Daniel Jones risk. So having a guy like Watson definitely going to boost the advance rate of this team. It now makes me kind of wonder if we go back and undo that Jeudy pick, because then it's like we're getting the stack at an incredibly favorable price.
Yeah, I want that one back. It's pretty rare that getting in that spot, but that would be one to have. Pete, I almost just wish that we had taken Christian McCaffrey at the 3rd pick and pretend we were playing a different format.
I know. This was a tricky one. And this is what's so funny about, same show, same time, just completely different draft rooms. And it really is the kind of, I think, the ultimate challenge for drafts this year. And it's similar to last year where it's like, you like the elite tight ends. If you want a guy like CJ Stroud, you're going to have to burn, a 5th or 6th round pick on him. You're going to get incredible running back values. And the only issue with taking like even the Kenneth Walker pick is like, well, you're going to get really nice values on DeAndre Swift, on Devin Singletary. And then you have that sweet spot of the draft board. I talked about this in my video. I called it kind of the Goldilocks zone of like rounds 12 through 14, where you have all those rookie running backs, second year guys like Sharbs and Kendre Miller, all the rookie wide receivers going in that range. And it's like knowing that that pocket is there, it definitely makes it hard to want to take those detours, because sometimes I just feel like the value pockets don't line up when you do that.
Exactly. And so, I mean, this team would have benefited from obviously some more wide receiver firepower, but I do like the guys that we got early. And I think it sets up nicely. And I do think that we're set up to dominate 3 of the 4 positions, which you always like to see, because you want to, in one way, shape, or form, limit the number of things that have to go right to get to where you're dominating all 4. And if you can put together, very conclusively and very simply a build that should put you, in the top brackets for scoring in 3 of the spots, and then you have very specifically drafted receivers that, I mean, obviously you're going to be drafting players that you like, but this mix of value / fit for the team. And I mean, obviously the first round pick there with Chase is straightforward, but then as you start to move through that, Stefon Diggs, I mean, we have to pick him way ahead of ADP in this particular room, but his normal ADP, I would argue, does not even close to reflect his upside. And then as we get into that next pick, we didn't talk about it at the time because things were moving so fast and furious. This draft just blew through. But Jayden Reed is probably the most mispriced player in all of fantasy. And so to have him on this team, you're putting another guy who, is 2 rounds below where he should be onto it. And then obviously it's going to be much more controversial to make some of those statements about JSN. But I think that JSN, for where he's drafted, is a player with an extraordinary range of outcomes, anywhere from disappointing again and just not being that involved in an offense maybe that doesn't pass a lot. And, Lockett kind of holds on and is the guy. Obviously, we've got the discussion about how they're going to use DK Metcalf more creatively. My first thought was that with kind of that discussion is that it also then opens them up to use JSN more creatively. That was one of the huge problems last season. Yeah, he's out there actually running a very large number of routes for a third receiver, but so many of the routes were take 3 steps and turn around and stand there. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you don't look like you're getting open. It's one of the reasons why, his ADOT in the first month was like 2. And that's, the time period where they're trying to figure out what they want to do. It's the time period where he's dealing with the broken wrist. The peripherals weren't fantastic from the first month on, but they were still much more interesting than the full year numbers. In a situation like this, where he could make that leap to being a guy who is a 1-2 turn pick next year, because it is still very realistic that he could be their number 1. And if you put that in a situation where you already have Jayden Reed and then you have those 4 vertical players, I don't really think that the wide receiver group is a problem so much as it's uncomfortable, it's unique, it's a little bit different than what we would do if we just had any choice.
I want to talk a little bit about Jayden Reed, because he seems like he's getting penalized because there are some cheap other options in the Green Bay room. There's been a joke, Shawn, on fantasy Twitter and shows that to prove that fantasy football, you say you like Dontavian Wicks. He seems to have the highest favorability rating across all analysts. I haven't heard anyone talk bad about Wicks. His ADP has been moving up. And I think Jayden Reed's price has hovered here because people say, why would I take him? I'll get Christian Watson 2 rounds later. I'll get Dontavian Wicks 6 rounds later, or maybe it's 5 or 4 now. But I think that's the psychology there. Why are people missing the boat on Jayden Reed? Because what he did last year is normally the type of profile people are so into, right? Year 1, breakout, high level efficiency, ascending offense. It's like the Zay Flowers bet, but you're getting it 2 rounds later.
Exactly. And I was going to mention Flowers. If you put Reed at that price, you would be perfectly fine. That would just put him 1 spot ahead of Dell, who's probably going to be the number 3 for the Texans. Now, I mean, we've been raving about the Texans throughout this draft, but another offense that projects to potentially score a ton of points and to create a ton of receiving value would be Green Bay. So even if you have a little bit of a gap there, why would the number 3 for Houston be going so far ahead of the number 1 for the Packers? And he should be in that range. I mean, one of the things we're talking about here with Flowers, you're probably going to have a situation where Mark Andrews is potentially the number 1. Or, and I love these situations where you have one really good receiver, you have the big time tight end. I think they could play off each other. It makes it difficult for the defenses to take either of them away. Some of the reasons why I think you have to like both Harrison and McBride. And yet the risks to Flowers are probably greater than the risk to Reed. And that includes a potential massive difference in total passing volume. And so when you look at the Packers, it is interesting. I mean, one of the things, like, was Bell Melton picked in our draft? Because if you want to, act like it just you can pick anybody, why not? I mean, he had some very nice plays.
He did.
For them last
he was
season.
very efficient. Yeah.
So, I mean, you could mention his name. For me, and it's one of the reasons why I'm completely out now on Romeo Doubs, who to me seems like kind of a weird price at wide receiver 52 there in the middle of round 9. Because with Watson and Doubs and Wicks, and then really 2 very interesting tight ends, you have a situation where that entire group could very easily cannibalize each other. Maybe I'm just wrong about this, and maybe they also will take a big chunk out of Reed, but he's someone who, as a rookie, scored so many points. The total number of points are a very strong indicator for this season. He was so efficient. The efficiency is a very strong indicator for this season. I was not super in on him last year, but obviously some people I respect a lot were, and I think they were right. And I think that if you look at his prospect profile from that perspective, then again, I mean, why would you not have him gapping the rest of the group? And then the rest of the group is very difficult to play because they're going to be sharing so many routes and so many touches. So if you have one guy separate, everybody else is a problem, then his price is really pretty crazy.
Yeah. And I think it's because of people, and I don't even think we've approached this, similar spots with all right, let's have some humility. It's an ambiguous situation. There's some interesting players behind it. Let's play it through the cheaper pieces. And so now you're getting positives about Christian Watson. He's figuring out his hamstring injury, so he's going to be healthy. People like Wicks a lot. And so I think they're just saying, why do this in the 5th round? Why deal with it? I can play the ambiguity of this cheaper, but in doing so, you might be missing out on a league winning player who's going to be a 2nd round pick next year.
Yeah. I mean, he was so good, and we don't often necessarily go back to talking about just watching the games, but you put on that last game of week 17 and this, determined who won the FFPC main event. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if it determined a lot of other contests that I maybe wasn't following
Best Ball
quite
Mania.
as closely.
Best Ball Mania 4, Jayden Reed was on the winning roster. Yeah.
And you watch that game develop. And if you were like needing him to not score and you're like, where is it going to be? I mean, he's wide open. You're watching that game. You're like, they have no chance to stop him here. If he's uncoverable in an offense that also schemes the receivers wide open, and you have a vertical passing QB who can hit him down the field, even if you don't want to put him up in that Zay Flowers range, to have him be going like a full round behind George Pickens, Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk, that to me is astonishing. And I've been wrong on Cooper. Like every time I'm on him, he does poorly. Every time I'm off, he scores 50 points in the most crucial game. So I'm probably wrong about Amari Cooper again, but I mean, how can you have Jayden Reed around behind George Pickens?
Yeah.
I mean, do people understand who's going to be coaching those 2 different teams?
I did want to circle back and talk a little bit about Pat Freiermuth. And so kind of the George Pickens is a good jumping off point for that. Freiermuth, I think he has been someone who, if you're constantly prioritizing elite tight end, you get a little boxed out, especially if you're also prioritizing Brock Bowers. It means you're generally taking the 0 running backs, maybe your quarterback in that range. So he kind of falls in that tight end purgatory. He's like between the elites. He's between all the people who are punting it off with 3 quarterback builds. And so it does take the right draft like we had today to get on him. But it sounds like, are you getting more encouraged about him based on the camp news, or is this something still about his profile that excites you this year?
Well, I really like Freiermuth, or I did really like him coming into last season. And then obviously everything blew up. You look at 2022 and in our stealing signals tool at RotoViz, which obviously is taken off of Ben's fantastic work and lets you find a lot of this stats that he has in his newsletter. And then ours comes from SIS. So it gives you a little bit of a different angle than the PFF numbers. But I mean, Freiermuth was a 24% target per route guy that season, which, matched him. I mean, Deontay Johnson ran a lot more routes for them. But when you're talking about a receiver who can draw volume and then you think is a red zone weapon, those two things, again, we talked about what are our criteria for being a true elite tight end. The thing that holds him out of that category for me is just the overall scoring range for that offense. Seems like it'll be very, very low. You got the poor quarterback play. Probably you've got an offensive coordinator who is maybe prioritizing some different types of things. But when you look at the talent, and then certainly one of the reasons that George Pickens is there is that he did have some huge games last season. He got behind the defense. I think that he's, one of the most extraordinary catchers of the football in the NFL. There's nothing controversial of that. I mean, he is. The two of them playing together, one of the things that they've discussed a lot too is that people may not know who their wide receiver 2 is yet. There seems like there's a lot of skepticism about anybody else being able to do anything. If you're looking at Pickens and Freiermuth and it's just those two guys, the volume for Freiermuth could be very good. And then if he does hit on some touchdowns, you're coming up with a player who is very appropriately valued. The main reason I don't have a lot of him is just that in most rooms, he doesn't fit how I'm building. Certainly today's room was a little bit unique.
Yeah, I was just going to pull up the post I saw about him here. This was from the beat reporters, although I believe this is the same beat reporter who failed to mention Roman Wilson when listing off like 8 wide receivers on the Steelers who could be their number 2. So maybe we take this with a grain of salt, but he said, nobody performed better and more consistently for 4 weeks than Freiermuth. He had an instant connection with Russell Wilson and came across as a potential playmaker in Arthur Smith's tight end heavy offense. The Steelers can overcome shortcomings at the receiver spot by relying more on Freiermuth. So do you have any, before we are going to be doing a draft here with both Pat and Shawn, Gretch, a little ship chasing crossover here in 1 sec. But Shawn, do you have any thoughts on, I guess, the entire pass offense as it pertains to Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields? Like, is Pat Freiermuth kind of insulated? Like, you would feel okay about his production with either of those, or how do you view that?
I think he works well with both players. I think the thing that you would see if you do get a Justin Fields is that he could even be better for Pickens and Freiermuth. I think that Russell Wilson is probably better for all the peripheral guys, right? Mm-hmm. So if you get Fields, he's going to be able to attack deep. To Pickens, he's going to be able to find Freiermuth where he is. If those two guys aren't open, he's going to run. And so that's why you kind of like him in that offense. He's got some weapons that work, and then he's going to run for a bunch of yardage. Russell Wilson can't really do that anymore. And even though I don't think that we saw much indication that he works through his progressions well, that was never the thing that he necessarily did well in Seattle. You've got to be able to just step back there, let the play develop for a long time, try and avoid the sack, then get rid of the ball. I think the peripheral guys are probably more interesting with Wilson, but those top players I don't think are going to be impacted too much. I like them in either scenario as being pieces that could work, in part because they just don't have other weapons.
Shawn, this has been the Best Ball Banana Stand. Tell people what you guys got going on over at RotoViz this week.
Yeah, going to have that big piece on the Seahawks. Going to have my 5 craziest Superflex values. So anybody who's been enjoying all the great Superflex formats out there, that will be available to you. We got a few more pieces that are in the pipeline from some other authors this week. I don't necessarily want to speak for them, but those things are going to be a lot of fun. Ben and I had a great show on Stealing Bananas last week, looking at some things we might be wrong about and some offenses that we don't discuss as frequently on the show. People who are looking for, our thoughts on some teams that we struggle to care about. We cared about them last week.
Yes. I highly recommend those shows. There's kind of two ways to consume them on the RotoViz podcast feed. You can get the shorts version, you normally splice those into 3 to 4 separate episodes, or you can wait and get the full uncut episode there at the end of the week. So I've really been enjoying those and your guys' conversation. And, I think sometimes, Shawn, there's this, everyone comes into everything with their predetermined takes. This is what it's going to be. This is what it's always going to be. And what I love is listening to you guys talk through things and kind of changing your position. I hear that with Pat a lot too on his ranking shows. Like, I'm going to move this guy up, move him down, of like understanding we're all trying to work towards the closest, answer or the closest version of the truth. But it's, incorporating all these data points to make the best informed decision. I feel like you guys really hash that out to a good degree on that show.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's wonderful to talk with Ben about some of these teams and really think through them and make sure you're forcing yourself to answer the questions that you might be getting wrong. And sometimes if you really honestly answer that question, you do move guys a little bit. And that, as you mentioned, very important part of the process.
Well, Shawn, this has been another fun episode of the Best Ball Banana Stand. I probably won't be emailing you after the fact being I love this team like I did with a couple of the previous ones, but that's the beauty of building.
You're not going to message everybody today saying, I won the whole thing. I won the whole thing.
No, but we made it work, and we took some rookie wide receivers a little earlier than they normally go. That's how it goes. All right, up next, we got my ship chasing crew. Pat is here every week, but we got Ben Gretch joining us as well for a special ship chasing crossover here on Best Ball Breakfast. Shawn, we will see you next time here. And I'm going to just quickly tab over to the ship chasing and make sure I can get our appropriate intro here.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your sight.
Jamar. Alpha play chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally this boys. You're right.
All right. Normally, you guys get ship chasing on Thursdays. Today, you're getting it on Best Ball Breakfast. We got Ben Gretch and Pat Kerrane. How are we doing, guys?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Excited to draft with you. Ben, how about you?
Good. Always a pleasure to draft with you guys. Two best drafters in the industry. You guys do so good at keeping I love when we draft together because I end up I get to make my player takes. We wind up landing on a few of them, and then I'm like, oh, this is a way better version of the build. You guys get me on the right structure, the correlation, give me ideas about how to play the guys that I want to play. I love it. It's great.
I should also, I assume these guys, obviously Pat is on here weekly, shouldn't need any introduction, but the three of us, like I said, do the ship chasing show every week on Thursday afternoons at 3:15. We had a really fun show last week where we went through our scariest fades, and these were kind of like accidental fades. I mentioned the CJ Stroud one a little earlier, so if you want to go through that, I highly recommend it. And then both Pat and Ben have great YouTube channels. Pat doing some awesome stuff on Legendary Upside. I was mentioning the Coach Speak episode he had recently, in Gretch just firing the mega live streams as he goes through the slow drafts. Ben, do you want to tell people about cornering the market on slow draft video content?
It wasn't something I necessarily set out to do. I can't do the fast drafts up here in Washington. So I was like, all right, this is the only thing that I can do is to walk people through my slow draft streams. I did a 4.5 hour stream on
Whoa.
Saturday. Didn't mean to. Didn't set out
People
to, but it was a fun.
Tired after a 4-hour stream on Mondays, and you're just kind of casually on the weekend. I have to gear up for this. I have to plan my drinks, my eating schedule, and you're just like, oh, I'll just do 4.5.
Well, I mean, you guys know I can never shut up. It wasn't the plan, but you get me going on.
The problem with if you're doing over a couple hours, I mean, you're on the clock and a bunch more slow drafts. I did get caught. You got to talk fast enough not to go on the clock on another draft. That's your time. Otherwise, you're just
and then I spin the wheel on every show of NFL teams and then break down one of the teams. And we got the Cowboys, and it was man, there are I ended up doing a deep dive into all the ancillary Cowboy receivers. People are talking in the chat about these extra guys.
Yeah,
Do I like this profile or not? Who's that one? The one dude they were all yelling at me at. And then I went and looked at. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Flournoy. Everyone loves Flournoy, the rookie.
Flournoy's the one I got interested in. Jalen Brooks. Everyone was like, "You got."
Oh yeah.
I went looked at him. I was like, "This guy sucks. He's not even good."
You got me with your title, Ben, because didn't you have? I was like, God damn it! Which Cowboys wide receiver is he calling the next? Did you call him the next Puka? Was that what it was?
I mean, the chat was kind of saying like, I was like, this is where the next Puka could come in. There's this opportunity, right? Like it's similar to what happened.
That's a good point. Yeah,
if someone was good. The situation, like especially
it's actually very similar.
Lamb. Yeah,
because you like Tolbert's sort of the 2-2, where we're like, yeah, he'll probably be out there running routes. We should draft him late, and it's like we don't think he's that good, and he's definitely not the league winner. But we're not. We haven't opened our third eye on Florida.
And Ferguson. I mean, I know you like him, but he hasn't shown an ability to earn target. Like that's been my concern. It's like the target.
I like him fine. I mean, he's fine. Yeah,
his targets per run weren't like amazing last year for a guy who was in a pretty good target earning situation last year. So it's like, and Brandon Cooks has fallen off.
Yeah,
so
he's fallen off. Yeah, which is one of the reasons I like Ferguson. Honestly, is that his route seems fairly safe to me. But to your point, what if someone pops up?
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing about Puka is he had this low key target earning profile in college, and there isn't anyone like to steal my own headline and give you the answer. There isn't anyone on the that's got the Puka profile.
Is the next Puka in Dallas? No, he's not.
No, he's not.
That's all right, guys.
That's not very
I hopped us in a Best Ball Mania draft. We got the 1-5. We're actually already on the clock. Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown at the top. Do you guys have a favorite here?
I like Jefferson.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, he's only the best wide receiver in the league.
I think part of the dip was that he wasn't signed. People were about the contract, all that stuff. He signed. Talk about earning volume. He earns a ton of volume. I know there's a rookie quarterback element, but like they're both guys on the roster are drop back passers. They should have pass volume, right? And Justin Jefferson's going to be open.
Yeah. One thing with Minnesota is they always tend to they're not like the Bengals where they go like nuts, or the Chiefs where they go nuts, but they always tend to be like their floor on pass rate over expected is like pretty close to 0. It's like minus, if they're like going run heavy, they're like -2. Like O'Connell is like committed to like not letting himself get too away from balanced in a way that most coaches are thinking, I need to keep the run game afloat here, but he's thinking I need to make sure I'm passing enough, is the way it looks to me. They just very consistent that way. They don't go like super run heavy almost ever. And last year they had a few times where I thought they would, or I thought they certainly could, and they did.
That's how it looks to me too.
I should also mention to you guys, more so than usual, my drafts this morning have been very avalanche-y. And I see a lot of familiar faces in these drafts. So I will just place that caveat that there have been lots of running back values later in the draft. And Shawn and I were drafting like Devontae Walker and Jalen McMillan 40 picks ahead of ADP because we were getting buried in an avalanche. So that's a note for this draft.
I love that the 12 turn, the 12-13 was like, I'm going to take Harrison for sure, and then thought about Gibbs for like 10
Can we talk to these sickos? You've turned Shawn Siegele into a robust running back, bro. Can you please stop taking all the receivers?
Are you guys all into Waddle here, or do you have something else?
Yeah, no, I'm taking Waddle. Yeah, we're taking the receivers. You guys just shouldn't.
No, everyone else. Else.
You guys calm down. We're going to take the receivers.
In this room, it's a great fit.
Thank you, Tyler. Yeah, ship chasing. Now we're chasing Mondays with Pete, Gretch, and Patty Warbucks here. We started Justin Jefferson and Jalen Waddle. Yeah, Shawn and I, we did the thing that happens when you're in a wide receiver avalanche room where we reached for Stefon Diggs in round 2 because we're like, let's just not get buried. And then Jonathan Taylor fell to round 3, and we literally just flipped their ADPs.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah. Did you guys have good Father's Day, as Hoosier says here? First Father's Day, Pat?
Yeah, I did. It was nice. It was a nice little day. How about you guys?
Had an awesome one. Yeah, took the kids to the park. They got me the. You guys probably don't know Bluey, but the dad's.
I know Bluey. I've seen. Yeah, I've already seen Bluey.
I got the shirt that says "Rad Dad" and has Bluey's dad on it, and I was like, yes, he's the best dad on TV.
I'm not getting a lot of sleep right now, but Bluey has like an insane ability to make me emotional. It's like every episode I'm like, God damn it, Bluey. It's been 6 minutes since I put this on, and I'm like, oh, life.
It's a great show. I'm thinking
I-
Diggs if we want to get receivers, but Achan's a great pick.
I would be willing to go Achan here.
Well, we have Waddle. Do you guys like to stack them both?
I mean, we're betting on Miami, so I'm into that, but we don't have to.
This is the one time
Pete's
I'm gonna
overruling me. Pete's
I'm just
overruling me.
telling you.
Okay, all right.
You're
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Running back values.
All right. Okay.
Zay Flowers and DK Metcalf were already off the board, Pat. Like we're DJ
all right.
All
right. You know what? I didn't consider that, to be honest. That's kind of nuts.
I got to pull up. Did you see Jacob's tweet about the Devon Achane thing?
Yes, this was so funny.
I have to pull this up just because we're not actually doing this here, but so Jacob first did this meme. He says, when a member of the best ball cabal wanders into the ESPN redraft party, so it's the guy at a party, they don't know I have 27% Devon Achane at the 2-3 turd. The dancing people, those best ball bros really hate our bees, huh? More dancing people. Can you believe we're getting Joe Mixon in the 3rd this year? Why are people drafting Miami's backup running back in round 4? But it was his follow-up tweet that made me laugh the most. Easily the funniest part of the redraft best ball economy divide is that on the site where nobody takes RBs unless held at gunpoint, we are also very confident that the best early running back value is a timeshare running back at the 2-3 turn who is outside most redraft analysis top 12. That's something.
Perfect. We have diverged. We have fully diverged from redraft.
That's one of the most, like, especially for how perfect it is too. Like, it's very, very niche. Like, you have to be an underdog bro to get that. I don't think most people would even, like, without the first tweet, like, know that that's referencing Achan. Like the people on the other side that are in mock drafts on ESPN's lobby right now, they don't know who that's even talking about. It's fantastic.
So good. So we have started here. Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, Stefon Diggs here. I'm trying to see if we've had any other interesting stuff. Achan does fall to 32, Kyren at 34, but then Derrick Henry sneaks into the end of round 3. So maybe normalizing a little bit here as we battle running backs versus wide receivers here.
We get the QB sliding. Josh Allen's still there heading well into the 4th. We could get the Allen Diggs stack that doesn't play on the same team
from
anymore.
Last year. Yeah, this could be a time to finally get, for at least for me, a little bit more CJ Stroud. Been missing out on that. Lamar Jackson comes off the board, and then Josh Allen does go. So we are on the clock here. Kirk, McBride. I'm down for.
I like
for
McBride
Kirk
too, but I think
I think Kirk's in the tier with the other receivers. I tend to go McBride here, like Keenan Allen and even like Xavier Worthy that you can get in the next round.
No, I don't.
It's 2v2.
I don't think he's in that tier.
Sure.
All right,
it's your opinion either way.
I overruled Pat on Achan, so I'll give him. Or sorry,
no,
did I just?
Pete? I overruled Pat on Achan, so fuck Pat again. So I'm overruling him twice. Fuck you, man.
Sorry, Pat.
What the hell, Pete?
What the hell?
I think I clicked Trey McBride so much that I just had this natural reflex to click him there, even though I meant to put Kirk up at the top.
That was fantastic.
God damn. I'm trying to keep this on track. Pete, this is a real avalanche room. I don't know if you've been reading the board, but there's a lot.
We might actually get wiped out on the tier that I was thinking of that comes back in the 5th. Like, it probably was smarter to push the tight end.
I like in my twisted mind, I view tight ends as part of how you survive an avalanche, even though that's not actually how a wide receiver avalanche works. But in my head, we're still cruising along.
But we because I know Pat, you really like Andrews. You can get him on the way back. Kincaid goes there. See, like the concern for me is if McBride, Kincaid, and Andrews all go, then you're like, all right, I'm taking Kyle Pitts at 505 because I don't want to not get an elite. I mean, that's just how I work.
Yeah, but I would rather have Kirk Pitts than McBride Reed. Yeah. See, I would just go Xavier Worthy here.
So Andrews does go off the board. I'm good with either Reed or
I'm good with
Worthy.
either Reed or Worthy too.
But
I don't think Worthy's in the same tier as Kirk. I think Kirk's
pretty.
Yeah.
Only bad thing about Worthy is he has same bye week as Jefferson and Waddle. That would be the only other.
Has the Jefferson week 17.
I think Reed's probably the better pick. Yeah.
With the bye thing too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right before you guys came on, the last like 10 minutes of the show was Shawn single-handedly trying to drive Jayden Reed's price up into the third round by calling him one of the most mispriced players on the board. So we can get in before the steam comes.
He's not going to get me on Reed this year. He's been doing that the whole offseason. I've drafted with Shawn enough. I think I've picked up some of his little nuances. He really likes the efficient rookies to get more volume in year 2 and that stuff. I think Reed's role is what it is. And I think because it was an abnormally young wide receiver room last year, I've talked about this a bunch, but even going into camp, all 11 guys they invited to camp last year were either rookies or part of the 2022 class. So second-year players. Some of them came from other teams. No guy on their roster was drafted prior to, or was a part of the. Some of them were UDFAs prior to the 2022 rookie class. And so Jayden Reed, as a slot guy, a motion guy, I think got a lot of his volume boosted in that really young room. I think if you see Dontavian Wicks break out this year, as everyone loves, or even if Dobbs is a little bit more stable, or if Christian Watson stays healthier, they all play the wide receiver position more traditionally. And I actually think that caps what Reed where he can go in terms of his role. Like, I think he's going to be good again, but I think it's easy to be like, well, a rookie receiver who had a really good year is going to take a step forward. And the way that the Packers set up for me, it's like, I don't think he can go forward. I think he's overpriced in the 5th round. I think he should be like a little bit behind. Maybe not way overpriced, but relative to the other Packers receivers, I like playing the passing game through the traditional outside receivers who could take a step forward.
I mean, I think Watson is pretty. I mean, he's risky, but like the payoff on Watson is pretty clear to me. Like, he stays healthy. Like, I think Davis has talked about how like we see these guys wash out, and we do if he keeps getting injured. But if he stays healthy, like he was their 2nd round pick 2 years ago. He's really good as a rookie. Struggled through injuries last year. Wasn't terrible. I mean, that's the traditional wide receiver, and a traditional downfield threat. And he's quite a bit cheaper than Reed. I like Reed. I take a lot of Reed because the room kind of makes me, but it makes me a little nervous.
Can I interest you guys in CJ Stroud stacked up with Diggs at pick 68?
You can.
Gretch, can I interest you in that?
I'm in on that. The other thing about Andrews ended up going before our 5th round, but the other thing about letting Andrews come back around, if we take Kirk, maybe McBride goes where Kirk went, and then Andrews comes back to us, is then we would have a better Houston thing. I was just thinking in my head, I'm saying all this negative stuff about Reed. Reed was definitely a great example of what I said at the top of the show, where you guys got me to think through the buys, the correlation. Reed was the right pick for this build. I would have just taken Worthy, and then later looked back on it and gone, damn, I should have taken Reed.
Pete, is that why you took McBride? Because you knew we could get Reed with the correlation?
Exactly. Yeah, that was exactly what I will say, knowing that Nick went Andrews there, I think Nick was going to take the elite tight end, one of the picks. I think we probably would have been in the spot Gretch would have described, where it would have been like Pitts here, because then Pitts and Kittle goes right before our pick.
Yeah. No, I think,
but it's hard to know that in advance.
Pitts is a fine pick there. I've gotten Pitts is tough for me because I'm like, he hasn't like done it since his rookie year, and it's like all the stuff. But like, you guys, I mean, all the Pitts bulls are right. Like, we're making excuses for London. We might as well make the excuses for Pitts, even though it's like a little bit more excuses, but he's a tight end. So if it hits, it
was fun. It was fun. Like when there were receivers in this draft, we're going to be at 705 with nobody on the board.
Yeah, Rachaad White comes off the board. This does feel like a receiver pick. We could do Aaron Jones with the Minnesota stuff. David Montgomery's kicking here. What do you guys think?
I like either of those.
Yeah, we could also take did Williams just go? Is Williams there or not?
Jameson Williams?
Yeah, I mean, we could take Jameson Williams.
I'd probably just go. Well, yeah, we could do that.
All right, hang on. Can I get Pat one? No. Sorry, Pat, I tried.
Yeah, maybe,
I wasn't sandbagging.
Fourth time's a charm is the saying, I believe.
You got Williams kind of still in this tier, Pat? I
not really. I just think I think the room is gonna. I see a drop off before this, but a drop off after this.
Right.
So it's like, let's get the guy, and then we know that we're gonna get running backs the next round. So That's where
I kind of feel okay with them, like the room pushing up Rashee Rice to 66, Deontay in the early 7th, JSN in the late 6th. Like those guys get pushed up. But as soon as that little bit of a drop off falls off, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to push up Jameson Williams that high. Like that's where
fair.
I got a little tricky with.
That's fair. I wanted Walker or White or Mixon, you know, in the 7th round. In this round, I'm taking Aaron Jones in the 7th, where he like basically always goes. Like, I'm just like, where's the discount? Where's my value?
I was lamenting that on my first draft because I'm like, all right, the one flip side to a wide receiver avalanche is you get these extreme running back values. And that wasn't happening in my other rooms either. I was getting like moderate values, like 4 to 5 picks. And it's like the sharpening of these rooms where it's like people are getting out in front, but then they're also grabbing the ADP values. They felt like particularly tough rooms today.
Yeah, the quarterbacks have been pushed down. We get a Stroud value. Josh Allen goes like, what was that? Like 8 picks or 9 picks behind ADP. A couple of those was Mahomes at 60 pretty far behind ADP? Or is he going there now? 5-6 turn.
Yeah, what is Mahomes?
I think maybe some of I'm trying to figure out where, his ADP is 48. 49, so 11 picks. I'm trying to figure out where some of the value goes, because when receivers get pushed up, something has to fall. I think the QBs in this room wound up.
Yeah, the QBs. Yeah. Well, the running backs. I mean, Taylor
and the RBs.
Yeah.
What's happening now a lot with Mahomes is people are double tapping him at like the 4-5 with Hollywood Brown.
Sure.
Yeah. I like that people do that. I don't ever do that. I try to use that to my advantage and take Lamar Andrews stuff.
That's a unique thing that guy got Mahomes with Kelsey. He gets him at 5-12. Yeah. Because a lot of people I've seen Mahomes get pushed all the way up to there, and people go Kelsey Mahomes at 3-4, which is like really
I think Mahomes should be on the backside of the board there. That's where I think he like should go. Or at least maybe not like right there, but I think you should be in the late 5th going, do I take Mahomes or Worthy? Do I push them around the board? The same way we do with like Lamar and Andrews. I think that's kind of more where he belongs.
Is it way too much capital to take Kyler at a discount?
I was just going to say we could do it and shut it down. There's also the running back.
Kyler Stroud would be sexy.
We've been wanting like a value on something, and the room hasn't really handed us anything.
If the room's going to give us 2 10-pick discounts, and we have them both stacked up, and they're both really good high upside QBs. Like,
all right, let's do it.
I like it. I think it's a sharp build.
Both of them shut it down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that was funny, just real quick about that Mahomes team, it's like, you know, they see an avalanche coming, so they take Amari here, and then you get the ADP value back at Mahomes. It's like a lot of these ADP value and reaches just end up being a wash as you just try to navigate these rooms.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. That's what Leone's comment about the wide receivers being kind of the quarterbacks in Superflex is really stuck with me, because it's a similar thing. When you go in a quarterback room, when you're just feeling out what room you're in, and you're like, oh, you guys don't care about quarterbacks at all here, then I'll just worry about them when I feel that I need to, as you know, and I don't have to like be hyper focused on I got to get a quarterback, you know. But in this room, you got to get the position of strength, which is wide receiver.
So James Conner, if we want to correlate here at the top, I mean, wide receiver is just pretty wiped right now. What do you guys think?
Conner, yeah.
Do you like Conner, Gretch?
Yeah. I'm into getting some exposure to him. I haven't gotten a ton, but
that was one from talking with Greg from Coach Speak Index. He was like, James Conner's their starting running back. Like, they really like James Conner. Yeah.
I think I mentioned that on Ship Chasing or on my show with Shawn, or maybe one of my own streams, but that was something I saw. Maybe it was from Coach Speak, but on one of the quotes that was like, Kyler was talking about it very clearly. Like, they're like, we have a good running back in James Conner. Like, they're not talking about the rookie. This is a situation where they're very much are like wanting to compete this year. Kyler's back to full health, and Connor's the guy that's been their stable starter for a couple of years. Had his best year of his career last year, 5.0 yards per carry, career high in rushing yards last year as well. Like, they're going into this year with a starting running back and a rookie backup in a very traditional sense. Benson's a handcuff. Like, if Conner stays healthy, he could be a stud.
Yeah, he could
then
be.
and I think I have open eyes when I click Benson. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, he's going to wrestle away a standalone role. It's just like, holy cow, the contingent upside. But I do think it's fair then to say, okay, he's going really close to Jonathan Brooks, where the thesis is like, once he's healthy and rolling, he's just taking over that backfield.
Yes.
I think you could probably start to make the counter of like, what's the big difference between MarShawn Lloyd and Trey Benson?
Yes. And Benson. Yes. I agree. And for this reason, I don't take Benson in the I passed him in a good price in the marathon and in an eliminator because he is more of like a best ball mania pick where you are doing the traditional handcuff thing. But in those other formats where you kind of need some earlier scoring, I mean, I think Benson's a really hard pick in this range at that point.
Yeah, I was more into Benson right after the draft because it's like, oh, it's a pretty interesting landing spot, you know, a high upside landing spot if he takes the job. And I thought he was a good, not great prospect, and he gets okay draft capital. Day 2 draft capital for running back. You do like to see that. But third round running backs are hit or miss. I think it's fair to say. You know, we've got a lot of guys like Keyshawn Vaughn was a third round running back, you know?
Right.
There's lots of guys who
And he's got like not very good missed tackle force numbers. It's like some of those efficiency numbers. He's not like top of the class or anything in some of that stuff.
He also was a committee back his entire career. He dealt with a major knee injury early in his career, but he never was a workhorse back at any point. And so, I don't know, him like displacing Connor as like the workhorse seems unlikely to me.
Well, we did it, guys. We successfully fudded Trey Benson down around as we poured some cold water on him.
This could the pick.
This could be a spot to grab one of these wide receivers if we really like them by ADP. You also have Myers, Wicks, Jeudy.
I think we grab a receiver.
I would probably be Jeudy personally here. What do you guys like?
I like Jeudy.
Unless you wanted to do the Wicks stack without Love and basically set up the second Green Bay stack.
Jeudy gives us Waddle bring back as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Oppo. There.
Jeudy's one that I'm getting around to it. I think he should be. I actually think, and I think he might finish there. I think he should be in the Lockett Sutton group, like before the wide receiver window actually closes. And Pat, you've gotten me off in Njoku a little. When we did the Ferguson debate on chip chasing a couple weeks ago, it started to center on Ferguson versus Njoku. I stand by Ferguson being overpriced, but you're like attacks on Njoku. I don't think I've drafted Njoku since. I think I'm just taking Bowers now. Just all Bowers every time.
That's the funny thing is that's what I've been doing instead of Ferguson. We just both talked ourselves into Bowers. Yeah,
but part of it was you brought up Jeudy.
Bowers above Ferguson in the raw rank, which doesn't come out that way because of ADP. But I was like, yeah, I want Bowers.
That's how you get your silent victory is the raw rank.
Yeah. Well, it was a silent capitulation. It wasn't a victory.
But you made a good point about Jeudy, who, I mean, he got a huge contract. Let's make this pick.
Let's make this pick. We again, Wicks is here. You could also double stack Stroud and be done at tight end.
I think maybe we do that. Yeah.
I don't see anything that's screaming to me, so it seems like a good pick to get Schultz. Like, I'm open to whatever you guys like. Wicks would be a good pick or a sixth receiver.
I think I'm Schultz for the double stack.
Right,
Getting a double stack on a pocket passer is nice.
Yeah,
Pat, put this one on the column. Don't
4 times the charm.
Hell yeah,
there
baby.
You go. There you go.
You guys just let me dictate this whole draft.
Here's the team so far through 11 rounds. We got the CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray team. Both of those guys a good round past ADP. 2 running backs, Aaron Jones and James Conner. Up to 5 wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, Stefon Diggs, Jayden Reed, and Jerry Jeudy. And then 2 tight ends, Trey McBride and Dalton Schultz. I think this is going to work out really well because now we're just going to be hitting the kind of running back wide receivers through this sweet spot range in like 12 through 14.
Yep.
I mean, you gotta hope that the onesie positions are really going to score well for this team. I mean, you don't want to be in a position where you're like, yeah, that's got to carry the team. But we took Stroud and Kyler Murray. We stacked them both. So it is correlated with both because we have both McBride and Schultz. It's a little thin at receiver, and we have 2 fragile lead running backs, but they could both stay healthy enough to give us some really strong production.
Yeah.
Like this team can work with the onesies really carrying it.
And like, I keep coming back to this idea of the running back profiles being so different than we're used to. Like, remember in like 2020, 2021, and we're talking through like this type of profile now would cost you a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick at the time. But Leone's like, look, man, if these dudes stay healthy, like the Todd Gurley season where he stays healthy and he grinds his way to like the running back 29 is still useful in best ball because it fills one of those running back spots. Well, what if that profile costs you an 9th round pick, or an 8th round pick, or whatever? When you're taking James Conner, Aaron Jones, those types of guys, You're just hoping they stay healthy and they're like filling that spot. But then you could take maybe a third one of those guys, like a Javonte, a Brian Robinson, a Zach Moss, a Zamir White. There's a million, right? You take a third one of those guys. All of a sudden, you have an old school hyper fragile team from like 2020. And now you could tack on an upside Ty Chandler thing and like you're kind of done. You could stop with 4 running backs with your first. You could go 0 running back and stop with 4 running backs with these profiles, I think.
By the way, I love Ty Chandler here. We already have the Minnesota Green Bay thing. Oh, we already have.
You want both?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want both. I don't want both.
So
I forgot we had Aaron Jones.
Charbonnet fits with Minnesota in week 16. There's Dowdle by the ranks. I would say
And Green
Sharps
Bay in
or Dowdle.
15. Sharps has Green Bay in 15 too. Let's get Sharps. Or
Yeah, I'm good
Dowdle.
with
I think that makes sense. Sharp,
Both
one of
those
my
Makes sense
value there
yeah.
too, a little bit.
Yeah. Dowdle's a good pick there too. I'm coming around on him.
But
He
anyway,
wasn't, like people said he's really inefficient. I started digging into his numbers. They're not like
fine.
they're not terrible. Okay, he's fine. Yeah.
When I watch him, I mean, there's not a ton to watch, and I also don't evaluate players based on film, so it's pure vibes. But he looks fine to me.
Yeah, he does. He seemed fine. They must think he's fine. They know.
Fine.
I think they know that Zeke's not like they got rid of Zeke a year ago, right? Like, I mean, I know they brought it back, but and who else do they have? Like, they literally Deuce Vaughn is not big enough. I won't buy that. It's Malik Davis or like Royce Freeman or Snoop Connor.
It's over for Deuce Vaughn. He's literally like the reports are he's running routes from the slot with the second team.
There you go.
That's as over as it gets for an.
So it's like Royce Freeman is going to be on there. He's going to be like the Rams last year was on. He was on the practice squad, and he's like the third, fourth running back.
The concern, and I have this concern because I draft a lot of Dowdle, is it's Herbert, it's Khalil Herbert, it's Samaje Perine, it's another dude from another team.
Oh, I really wanted Jalen right there with our veteran running backs. Some rookie.
Yeah,
I like Pearsall here.
Yep. Pearsall is week 16 Miami. The running backs aren't necessarily jumping out a ton here. Gretch,
is Vidal there? I would maybe Vidal must already went. Yeah,
no, he's here.
Oh, I would take him, but is that too early?
Hang on, should I give Pat one?
Yeah, we can give Pat one.
Sorry, it's just a bit. Gretch, talk about Vidal. He's been a tougher click for me in this range lately.
Oh my god! Well, we're just talking about coach speak. I just tweeted out a quote tweet of him. They're really talking up Vidal. Are
they? I can't find shit on it.
Coach speak just tweeted about it again today.
All right, good.
Yeah. So
good.
Go look that up.
Yeah, I want to see that. It's been so quiet since the draft.
I'll pull it up.
And he referenced that he did really well in or I think he referenced he did really well in missed tackles force, or somebody in his comments did. It was actually the reason I went and looked at missed tackles force today, which is why I had that Benson thing top of mind. But he literally led NCAA football last year in total missed tackles forced, or he was second. He led this draft class, second in all of NCAA.
He looks like very Gus Edwards-y, very James Robinson-y. He like breaks tackles. He doesn't have long speed. He's like pure like a chunk play runner, but he's kind of in the perfect spot.
But that's what they want. Like Blake Corum didn't even he was really bad in like missed tackles force. He didn't even do that much in the Michigan system. They want you to hit holes. They want you to be like not a negative. That's why they went and got Gus Edwards, right? Like, but Gus Edwards might just be too old, and J.K. Dobbins is coming off an Achilles, which is like, and they don't have that. I mean, I've honestly considered if we should be drafting Isaiah Spiller in the last round because he had an interesting profile a couple years ago. Like somebody's got to run the ball for this team.
Harbaugh tried to recruit Spiller. Someone told me on Discord.
Oh God! Now I'm going to start drafting Isaiah.
I know.
Wait, back at Michigan?
Back at Michigan.
Oh.
I haven't confirmed this, but that's what someone said. Yeah.
Is that we need a new narrative other than he played against Quentin Johnson in college and he torched him and that's why he's going to feature him. We need another good college Harbaugh.
The one who got away narrative.
Yeah.
Imagine if that's really what drives Jim Harbaugh's team. It would surprise nobody. Like
I wouldn't be surprised.
Touches. But the Vidal thing, his bar to clear to get on the field and get touches for a day 3 back is significantly lower. So when we think about day 3 backs and they don't actually produce a lot, I mean, I think if we really do, like Tyler Algier just went. His rookie year, we said the same stuff about him. The bar to clear for him, Bijan wasn't there yet. Right. He's probably Atlanta's lead back. We're like, there's not a lot of competition. And he played a ton. Like the guys that we identify like this early, I think tend to actually hit. If it's a small cohort and it's more recent that running back prices have been
Algier was a better prospect than Vidal, but
okay.
Yeah.
By a lot.
I think by a decent amount. Yeah, I would. His profile was pretty interesting. Vidal's is like JJ liked him, and I saw he's popping in some stuff. He didn't really pop in my model, but
I think we're on the clock. I think we should probably take a wide receiver here. I have not been doing the Bateman thing, but if you want to play the bring back on the Houston stuff, or you could wait for Devontae Walker. We got both Broncos wide receivers, Javon Baker.
I go Mims over Franklin when I go Bronco, but I'm open.
I'm fine with that. Bateman's had a couple bad days of practice, it sounds like.
Has he?
Yeah. One of the beats was like, Bateman didn't have his sharpest day today, which is like not normally what beats say. Normally beats are like, so-and-so looked great on this contested catch. Blah, blah, blah. They don't normally be like, Bateman. So I didn't like seeing that.
Which is a bump for Devontae Walker. I mean, I think it's a pretty direct, like if Bateman fails again, then Walker's path is open, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I've taken them both together. I'm not saying like one has to fail.
I've taken Nelson Aguilar before.
you don't.
This is turning into us admitting
out loud. Yeah.
Oh, man. I've done it.
I've taken Nelson Aguilar before. The guy I usually take there is Bucky Irving. I can't stop drafting him either. He's another one who had really good missed tackles for us in college. Like seems like the clear number 2. Seems like he's gonna play. I don't know. Maybe I'm underrating Rashad White, but Bucky Irving's too cheap.
No, I like Irving too. That was one Coach Being Nice was talking about how there's some reasons to be bearish on Irving. Let's do our pick here.
So the correlation would be Michael Wilson, or you do have Javon Baker, who has a bunch of week 17 bring back stuff.
Good with either.
Yeah, I'm good with either.
What do we have?
Michael
Wilson? I don't think you have
double
to
stack. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't know if we have to because
he's getting some decent buzz, Wilson.
Okay, good.
I'm still nervous about him. Like we're lowering him in the ranks, but we've come up on him because like they're talking him up a decent amount. Now they're sort of like they asked Waldron, like not Waldron. What's the dude's name? What's
Petzing? Drew Petzing?
No,
or whatever.
It wasn't Pet. Gannon. They asked Gannon. About him, and he was like, they were like, "What's his role?" He's like, "His role is gonna be to help us win. Anytime he's out there, he's gonna be helping us win." And so he's like, I want to hear like 90% routes. That's what I would like. But it seemed like he was like he's doing like he was very complimentary of all the stuff he's doing, all the stuff he's added, and it was overall sounded pretty bullish to me. But he also
did you hear Kyler's Greg Dortch quote yesterday?
Yesterday he's giving us more.
I think it was yesterday. I saw it yesterday. It was like if he's 6'4", he's a top 5 receiver.
That
was last week.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That one to me was like worrisome for Wilson in the sense that I think Dortch is going to play a lot in the slot. Harrison's going to play, and then it's Wilson versus
Does he split with Zay? Yeah. So I don't take a ton of Wilson because I'm worried about. But also like second year receiver, day 2 guy, getting positive hype about the way he's come into his second season. The coaches seem to like the way he's approaching it in his second year. Zay Jones, we didn't give a shit about 3 years ago. Yeah. And like now he's like a third contract veteran arriving with like, not a lot of money. And like, we shouldn't we could look back on this and be like, why did we care about Zay Jones signing his depth?
Yeah.
They cut him in like May and then he signed in May. Like he signed with Arizona in May. I mean, he got a couple tryouts. It was interesting that like Dallas worked him out and he chose Arizona.
And to me, this is like the perfect way to like use correlation. And this isn't even a bring back, but the team level, it was like, if we had a preferred target, maybe Troy Franklin comes back around. It's like, we got the bet with Mims. We like the Franklin, upside scenarios a little bit better. Okay, do that. But you're looking at a really flat decision and you're like, I'm probably going to be underweight Michael Wilson regardless. Let's take him on the Kyler team. Like that's the time to grab.
Because the other guy is Baker, but we have Stroud Kyler. So we're not going May. And so, another reason not to go with him. So it's just there's lots of guys in this range, including Franklin, including Baker, that I take all the time over Wilson. And so, and the reasons I would take those guys are gone. So it's like a really perfect time to mix it up.
We're about to be on the clock. The running backs are kind of flying off the board here. We're kind of in the Eli Mitchell, Roshan, CEH. Dobbins is still here.
Well, we took
Luke McCaffrey. Yeah.
I would be Roshan or McCaffrey probably. What do you think, Pat?
I would be McCaffrey or Eli Mitchell, I think.
Okay. I'm looking behind us. Let's do the wide receiver here.
It's a flat running back tier. I mean, it's not like Roshan or Elijah Mitchell are like exciting. Luke McCaffrey's the last like. Devontae Walker went off a couple picks before. That's a bummer. But McCaffrey, like getting a value on him late is fun.
I also think
a little bit. It was like there was enthusiasm with all the people doing the Jayden Daniels backdoor stacks for a while, and now he's like not as sexy for some reason.
Yeah, Jayden Daniels with McCaffrey in the 13th and Benson out in the 14th isn't as sexy as you thought it was on May 4th.
Well, I mean, it's apparently not sexy at all because the Jayden Daniels drafters don't want him. Period.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, the Eli Mitchell, he's moving up a little bit now just because of some of that coach speak and them pretty much making it clear he's still their RB2 there. So the Garendo slappies have stood down for a second. We have two more picks. We have a 2-4-8-2. So this could be a couple of running back darts if we can find a dart to throw. I mean, CEH does give us...
Keaton Mitchell's a good late season. I don't think
it's a bring back
play this whole year. It's a bring back for like he'll be on the field in week 17. We have a double stack, right? Like
let's do it.
He's the late season handcuff. If Derrick Henry gets hurt, it's Mitchell who brings you upside late in the year in the backfield. It's not Justice Hill's probably the backup. It's not Rasheen Ali. That guy's not a good prospect, right, Pat?
No.
Yeah. I think
what the fuck did you just say about Rasheen Ali, dude?
As a bring back, and especially on a team that has Aaron Jones and James Conner as guys to float the first half of the year, but maybe not late, I think Keaton Mitchell is a great pick on this team.
Yeah. I should also mention, speaking of Davis Maddock, ADP chasing today, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on the Ship Chasing YouTube. I didn't realize this until just a few seconds ago. You guys have Leone on today.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Michael Leone joining Pat, Davis, and Sam Sherman. Make sure you guys check that out over there. Guys, I will recap this team as we enter the final round. I should say these drafts are flying today. You know, it's a badge room because all of my drafts have been sub 40-minute drafts today. We have CJ Stroud and Kyler Murray at quarterback. Up to 5 running backs here: Aaron Jones, James Conner, Zach Charbonnet, Kimani Vidal, and Keaton Mitchell. Wide receivers: Justin Jefferson, Jayden Waddle, Stefon Diggs, Jayden Reed, Jerry Jeudy, Marvin Mims, Michael Wilson, and Luke McCaffrey. Tight end: Trey McBride and Dalton Schultz. How are we feeling about this team?
Feeling good.
Love it. I freaking love it. It's just what I said at the beginning. Like you described the exposure to Michael Wilson really well. I haven't been taking a lot of Jayden Reed. I got like exposure to guys I don't ever get, and I'm like, it makes really perfect sense. Like it's like a lot of the guys that I like, and it's also like a better build than I would ever make on my own. I love it.
I also think like we don't need to take a 6th running back, even though it's a true 0 running back build, first running back in the 7th round. I think we're good at 5 if we want to be.
If we want to be, yeah, I guess what we're probably going to have the decision on is if like we wanted to like triple Kyler, we could take a one-off wide receiver. I still feel like there's some running back names I'm interested in here.
Pete, I don't know if you heard, but Greg Dortch could be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL if he was a little taller.
It would be such a
That's
good bit
insane.
if like
Top 5.
What if like every week like they just changed it like an inch? You'd be like, he'd be a top 4 receiver if he was 6'6", and then it's just like if he was 6'11".
Oh, there goes Dortch. I actually really, really wanted Dortch.
Oh man,
Short King Summer, dude.
Yeah, no, we could draft her. I'm basically saying it's a luxury pick. I think
if he was 6'10", he'd be a top 0.5 wide receiver.
If he was 8'3", he'd be the best receiver.
If Greg Dortch was 6'10", he would be the 9th man on the Boston Celtics.
Unguardable off the bench.
Unguardable.
What's up, Chris G? All right, so let's see here. Do any of these running back names interest you?
I mean, I do take CEH.
Estime, I think, is the best path to fading.
Estime is totally fine. Yeah, we could take Estime for sure. I'm sick of taking CEH, to be honest.
14 buys, except most of them are at wide receiver. So I don't know if that hurts us too much as far as the running back. I have been wanting to get a little bit more Estime. So I would say like CH or Estime. Do you guys have a...
I'm down to 2 Estime.
He actually looked good in those missed tackle force things today. So I'm on an Estime thing this morning.
All right.
I
We're all on an
want to
Estime
take him.
thing.
So my thing with the Broncos backfield is I think Peyton actually cares about running back size for the guys that do everything. And people are all into McLaughlin, and I've tweeted about it and stuff. But like he got really scaled back last year from the week 4 to 6 usage that was like his breakout. He didn't get back to that the rest of the season. Blake Watson's an undersized guy. Perine's probably on the outside looking in, but Estime is the only other back that has size. He has some intriguing missed tackle force stuff from college. Didn't catch a lot of passes in college, but they throw to the backs enough that like if it's not Javonte, it's probably Estime, it feels like.
I think if it's not Javonte, it's probably Estime. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I really like Javonte, but
if it's not, it's sort of like if it is Javonte, it's not Estime.
It's not Estime, yeah.
And it's probably Jaleel in addition to Javonte. I like Jaleel because he's supposed to be a really hard worker. From like coach speak stuff, they're like, everyone's like, dude, this guy's putting in the work. Payton was talking about how early he shows up. And then the running backs coach, I think, or the OC was like, this dude, he's like, the one thing you can count on is he puts on the work. And the thing they're looking for him is pass protection. They need him to step up in pass protection. If he doesn't, then his role is not going to grow and maybe even shrinks. If he does, though, I mean, he was really efficient. He flashed. He was explosive. I think I do think he's an interesting pick. My general view on the Broncos backfield is yes.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying too. Like we might as well take a swing on it. That if he gets a piece of the pie is going to be big. We like the size of the pie.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bo Nix is going to check down a lot to the running back. Like this system is going to call for a lot of throws to the running back.
And I do think like, going back to like the portfolio management thing and the way I really want to view those spots is like, you can have both of those ideas in your head that Javonte Williams is an awesome pick and Audric Estime is an awesome late round pick. Like those things aren't in disagreement.
No. Bronco in every draft, dude.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. One Broncos running back in every draft. Like Watson. But I do think, and then you also can, it actually works from strengthening your portfolio because if you have the conviction on the Denver running backs are going to catch a shit ton of passes or going to produce a ton of value. Okay. Maybe it's my Estime portion of the portfolio that rises it up. Maybe it's my Javonte where he just turns into a top 10 back like he was a couple years ago. So I love playing both of those. And it's really nice when both of them are pretty cheap too.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
All right. I'm going to recap this team and get your guys' thoughts here. I'll mention at 1 p.m. Eastern, we got my guys from the Badge Bros hopping on for a final Best Ball Mania draft. Nez and John, a little off and on the clock special here on Best Ball Breakfast. Here is what the ship chasing crew put together this morning. Get that double elite QB with CJ Stroud and Kyler Murray. Depending on how you defined elite QB, please don't come after me. Running back Aaron Jones, James Conner, Zach Charbonnet, Kimani Vidal, Keaton Mitchell, Audric Estime, and then our wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, Stefon Diggs, Jayden Reed, Jerry Jeudy, Marvin Mims, Michael Wilson, Luke McCaffrey, and those 2 tight ends, Trey McBride and Dalton Schultz. Gretch, final thoughts on how this team shaped up?
I love it. I mentioned that. I'm actually really curious about Pat's thoughts because like I do think we were joking about it, but we lead, I think, towards my player preference on a few of the early ones for sure. So it's a lot of the guys that I like. And I think you guys, like I said at the top of the show, are awesome to draft with because you guys got me on a really good structure here. Like we have the Arizona thing built out so well with Connor too, and Wilson and McBride, the double QBs. You mentioned double elite. We get them both at a discount. It feels more like 2 in the QB window. Like I think Stroud was round 6 and round 8. Like it's a little bit of a little pricey version of the 2 in the QB window thing. It's a good 0 RB build where you get Jones and Connor. I mean, it's a fun team. I'm a little bit worried about receiver depth when you get into a wide receiver avalanche and you only get 4 early, but I think we did it right. I don't think you want to keep chasing that in the middle rounds too much. We came back with some intriguing profiles, sprinkle them in, Jeudy, Mims, get some, correlated stuff, get a little upside with McCaffrey. I mean, I love it. I think it's a good team.
I like it a lot. I think the McBride pick ended up being really nice because we get Kyler, we get James Conner. really wish we had Greg Dortch, would have tied the team together. But you get Michael Wilson. It's a really fun. Then we get the Stroud double stack. Schultz is a really nice kind of like amount of draft capital to spend on a TE2 with McBride. So it all just kind of fit together pretty nicely. And yeah, I mean, if anything, we're like too strong at running back. We didn't draft running back in until round 7. Like for real. I mean, where's the thing I'm worried about? It's not having like a real, like that Ricky Pearsall one of all the ones that I was overrolled on, that not having Ricky Pearsall or just another like high upside wide receiver swing as a wide receiver 6, and then Marvin Mims is a high upside swing as wide receiver 7. That would be the one spot where I'm like,
what's your Pearsall upside case? Because I don't think Debo or Aiyuk's getting traded, so I'm pretty concerned.
Well, yeah, there's certainly some projection path to touches issues with Pearsall, but the upside case is he was a first round pick. His strength is that he gets open in the intermediate area of the field, and then he's good after the catch. And reports have been really strong out of initial OTAs and minicamp that he's really impressing. And so it's just like I have a first round wide receiver in a Shanahan offense who does Shanahan stuff really well, and I don't need anything to the end of the season. And I don't know that like if it like chaos, man. Like, is there an injury? Like talk about a receiver who has probably the most contingent upside of any receiver, like on the board. Like who would benefit the most
relative to cost?
Relative to cost is probably Pearsall, where you could feel like you got a 3rd, 4th round wide receiver in the 13th round. So we don't normally talk about contingent value receiver, but I think he definitely has it.
That's fair.
I've struggled with Pearsall. I've been clicking him. I've done a ton of like Purdy, like he's the guy that I do my double stack with. Kittle talk on Pearsall, be like, what if one of Aiyuk or Debo get hurt or whatever, then that might break well. I think what's a little harder, say maybe juxtaposing him to the Jaylen Wright bet, where it's a little bit more of a 2-leg parlay at wide receiver, right? We need the opportunity to open up and for him to be good.
He has to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Jaylen Wright, it's like if Mostert or Achane go down, it's like Wright's probably just going to feast just by pure opportunity in that offense. But I've been taking Pearsall for that same kind of chaos thesis.
I'd never take him, so I'm glad to hear that. I'm gonna start mixing him in too. I think that's a good call. For me, it's the running backs in this range. I'm always taking Wright, or I'm taking Vidal's usually not this high, but there's other good running backs where Pearsall ends up coming off.
I try to think about it too, of like at what price do I need this player to, like Sky Moore and stuff like that kind of taught me this. It's like, hey, this 0 really hurt in the 9th.
Yeah.
It really hurts in the 8th. It really hurts in the 9th. It doesn't hurt so much in the 12th. And I don't really think it hurts that much in the 13th, where like it's not great. But like in the 13th, if you get like a really great 18th round outcome, I think that's okay. Like you're okay with a really great 18th round outcome being one awesome spike week in week 15, 16, or 17. If you get that out of the 13th round, I think you're good, as long as you're building like we generally do and you're strong at receiver.
I think looking back, we can run a couple 2v2s, like say on the Vidal. So the first one would be Vidal and Marvin Mims versus Pearsall and Bucky Irving. And then the second one would be Vidal and Luke McCaffrey versus Pearsall and Eli Mitchell. Those would have been kind of the 2v2s positionally there.
I definitely like the Vidal side on the second one, personally.
Yeah.
I like the Pearsall one on the first one. The second one.
First one's really close.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone wants us to talk about this Aiyuk video. I had missed this. Apparently this is just happening now. A clip of him hanging out with Jayden Daniels.
What did I say?
Oh my God.
Chaos, baby. Here it is.
Oh,
no. Listen.
We should have taken Pearsall.
I can't hear it. Can you?
We can't hear it. Pete's listening to it.
It's Aiyuk talking to Jayden Daniels. He just said, they don't want me back.
So they're not planning to extend him after the year. They're planning to have him play out his final year. But I still don't think he gets traded before the year. They're in win now mode. They were in the Super Bowl last year. They were trying to trade for 2024 capital. Anyone who thinks he gets traded now is thinking they're probably trading for 2025 capital, which just makes them worse if they're not planning to bring him back. Like,
also, I will say, to be the wet blanket on fun, Twitter rumors, it wouldn't be the first time that a wide receiver was an emotional diva who maybe his agent just got off a call and is overreacting to a piece of information he heard. It wouldn't be the first time.
It wouldn't be the first time that a diva wide receiver forced to trade, though.
But why would they do? Yeah, no, I agree. It wouldn't be. But why? That's what I was trying to say. Is like, why would San Francisco deal him? I think they're going to be like, we'll let him hold out even if he holds out because they're planning for the playoffs. Like, and if you don't come back by week 6 or 8 or whatever, your contract doesn't toll, you're stuck with us. Like, eventually they have to come report is what it comes down to. And they're not worried about him holding out. Even if we start to get holdout reports, I'll probably buy the dip on Aiyuk because I don't think, well, I mean, I don't know if he'll dip because people will think he's going to get traded. They might actually start taking him higher. They're like, Aiyuk's going to get all these extra targets. I don't know, man. I think it's like, the Niners are not in position, and they said it after the draft. Like, that ship kind of sailed. They didn't mind doing it in the draft if they could get more 2024 draft capital
they wanted
and bring in reinforcements for this year.
Yeah.
They don't care
just
about
because
future.
it is always fun to do the what if ADP exercise. Let's just say Aiyuk gets traded, just suspend disbelief that he's off the team tomorrow. Where does Ricky Pearsall go in drafts?
Probably the Keon Coleman, Lad McConkey range, right?
I think he goes above those guys.
Really?
Above those guys?
Above Keon for sure.
Really? I mean, isn't like
Keon? We don't really like Keon.
I know, but I mean, isn't Pearsall just as shaky of a prospect, and Keon would even have less competition?
All my homies hate Keon. Keon seems like an awesome person.
Keon.
Yeah. Did you hear Brandon Beane talking about him? He was like, there's a lot to learn from rookies, and I don't know what they teach in college schemes, but apparently not a lot of run game. They don't teach a lot of run game in colleges, apparently. So we're gonna, there's definitely some run game stuff. We're gonna.
So he can't pass. He can't run block. He's not gonna play.
Run block. Yeah, it was pretty bearish. It was like a guy. He literally was like, hey, he's genuine. Everything, the personality, it's all the guy we thought that's been great. That part's been great. But back to the playbook. Holy shit, dude. No, he didn't. But it had that
Brian Thomas's coaches are like, he doesn't speak. We can't get him to talk.
But he goes out there and does it right.
Yeah, that was good. But what are these reports right now on these rookies?
Bean looked panicked. I'm telling you. I might have been Coach Beacon that had it, but it was worth watching. He was like literally like, oh fuck man, okay.
My official ADP prediction in that scenario would be right next to Jamison Williams for where Pearsall would go.
I would say, let me look at this. I would say he's right next to Keon. I would think I would say in between Ladd and Keon.
I just think the whole thesis for the Ladd and Keon is like literally no target competition, and Pearsall would still have Kittle and Debo. Like, I don't think he's.
I know, but we're drafting Debo in the second round, so and not that. I mean, it's because he's Debo, but like there's an expectation about what this offense can support.
But it's the same Jamison Williams with behind Amon-Ra and Laporta. Like a similar thesis.
It is a similar bet to the Jamison Williams.
It is a similar bet to the Jamison Williams. But Kittle's not like a target hog like that.
Kittle would officially become elite. He's not elite.
Yeah, Kittle would be elite.
He becomes elite.
This would make Kittle elite, dude.
Oh no.
He'd go to bed not elite and wake up elite. What a nice run out.
That's great for him, man. I'm excited for him for that.
I don't know. The chat is obsessed with Juwan Jennings. I've seen more Juwan Jennings talk with this thought.
All right, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe I'm just higher on Pearsall than the market.
No, the way that Juwan Jennings, like the way that Pat was describing Ricky Pearsall, I was like, oh, they're talking him up to take the Juwan Jennings role, even if they don't trade Aiyuk. Like he's going to play the Juwan Jennings role. Juwan Jennings is done.
Guys, the Juwan Jennings contract was to like shift salary around so they can make this Aiyuk deal work that they apparently don't want to bother doing now. But that was, it wasn't like Juwan Jennings new contract. Like, no, dude, like it's mostly a salary cap type. So even the Christian McCaffrey one looked like it was done with that in mind to some degree.
Juwan Jennings had a little bit of efficiency last year. Do you guys want to take a guess at how many targets he had in the regular season last year?
Was it like less than 20?
It was 33. You guys be like split the difference.
Yeah,
I would have guessed 50 at least. 33? He had 19 catches last year, and people are like, got to make room for Juwan
saw
Jennings.
That one end around when Debo left for a quarter, they're like, this guy is a big part of the game plan.
And it went terribly. The team was like, oh, what are we
so
thinking?
bad.
What are we doing?
Guys, this was a blast drafting. As I mentioned earlier, we are often drafting Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. No ship chasing this week, hence this show. Gretch, let people know what you got going on. I mentioned your YouTube channel. You obviously have the awesome Stealing Signals Substack, one of the mandatory reads if you are taking best ball and fantasy football seriously. Anything else going on in your neck of the woods, Gretch?
No, that's it right now. The Stealing Signals YouTube channel. Go subscribe and like and whatever all the stuff you're supposed to do. I appreciate it. We're trying to grow that. Started my projections process as well. So going to be doing projections content in the coming weeks. It's going to take some time though.
Are you going to sync up with Leone again for the projection pods? Those are all
I love those.
I've delayed it as much as possible, but I think we're doing our first recordings in early July, so I have to start projecting the teams eventually. It takes Pat, it takes weeks to do projections.
Dude, Gretch and I, when we first were starting out with RotoViz, did in 32 teams, we did upside and downside projection for every team, and then we interviewed a beat writer for each team, and we both had full-time jobs. Like what? It was insane. It was an insane idea.
32 pods in 45 days, and they were all, like he said, an hour long with a beat reporter interview and multiple projections. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was fine though because we didn't have to coordinate any of the beat reporter interviews. Oh wait,
yeah, we did. We did all that on our own.
No,
too.
we did. Yeah, we did.
Pat, you guys have been teasing a new tool over at Leg Up. What's the status on that?
So I was hoping to come on here and have an announcement, like we launched Let's Go announcement. We don't have that yet. I'm hoping that we launched announcement very soon, like ideally later today. And if not later today, tomorrow. And if not tomorrow, I really hope Wednesday. We're working on a couple of back end things before launch. But yeah, it's called the Sidekick, and it's a dynamic rankings tool. The simplest way to think about it is what if Leg Up playoff best ball tool, but Bbmv.
Yep. Just be careful with all these false return announcements. You're going to turn into Aaron Rodgers. Like, no, I'm definitely going to be ready next
I know,
week.
man.
Definitely going to be ready.
I know. Yeah. I'm just saying I've been saying imminent. I've been trying not to do that. I've been trying not to, give dates that then go by the wayside publicly, because that's been happening behind the scenes. But we're looking very close to getting this out to you. I'm excited. What I will say is when we launch, we're going to be doing a 5-day stress test for all Legendary Upside subscribers. So because it's going to launch under a new tier that will launch with all the details on that. Will be out there right at launch, but it will include a 5-day stress test. So if you're a Legendary Upside subscriber, you're going to get plenty of time to actually check this thing out, see if you actually enjoy using it, get a feel for it, crank some slows with it, crank some fast with it, multi-table with it, really test it out and get comfy. So you have that to look forward to at some indeterminate date.
I can't wait until the stress test is like, oops, I had all of you guys taking Drake May in round 12. My bad.
Was that too early?
Let's fix that.
Yeah. We'll see.
All right.
Well, that's what it really is for, just to see how high I can make people take Drake May.
Thanks to both Pat and Ben for joining. I dropped the links to their YouTube channels. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Legendary Upside and Stealing Signals. Up next, we got the Badge Bros. We are going to do off and on the clock here. I thought I had a clip in here. I do not. But Gretch and Pat, we will see you guys next time on Ship Chasing. All right. Welcoming to the stage. Oops, there he is. We got Nez and John. I went into my hopper for Off and On the Clock, but I don't have the little sizzle that we normally have on our show. Welcome to the stream, guys.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on the big stage here, Pete, with on Best Ball Breakfast. I mean, a lot of eyes this time. I can't be firing these Steeler takes off the hip like I normally do. I got to be a little bit more disciplined. I got a larger audience here.
Yeah. Is Nez going to tighten up? 100 people watching live. It's like Justin Fields backdoor stack, 600 people watching. It's like, maybe we should just take Russell Wilson, just play this a little safer.
I was prepared for 45 straight minutes of Brandon Aiyuk gal brain to the Steelers after that little clip you guys were just watching.
Oh, I was typing up so many comments. Like, let me just erase him. I'm about to get on. Let me just not even post that he's a Steeler. He's already looking at black and gold.
Yeah, let's get the take here. Is this an actual trade that's going to happen?
I mean, I think the Steelers are gearing up to do like one of two very big things, and that's one, either trade for Aiyuk and extend him. Very much actually think that's a possibility, or two, spend a ton of money next season on a quarterback in this very enticing quarterback free agent market next season, because they have top 5 cap space starting next season, and they have Fields and Russ on these 1-year deals. So I really do think there's a possibility of them doing something exciting, if not this year, then next year, especially with the new GM and Omar Khan. He's definitely been way more quick to do these fun, exciting moves that they have never done in my entire life of being a Steeler fan.
Just say his name, Nez. Just say his name, man. You want Dak Prescott.
Oh, Dak Prescott, baby. You already know.
Just say his name.
I mean, Dak Prescott's going to get so much money.
Let's say Nez's dreams come true and Aiyuk ends up on the Steelers tomorrow. Does George Pickens' ADP budge? And if so, in what direction?
George Pickens. Well, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask because I already think he's slightly overpriced. I mean, you still have to take into fact that this is an Arthur Smith run first offense, even if they go out and get a super talented wide receiver in Aiyuk. I guess Pickens goes down ever so slightly, but he's probably still stays up there because people get excited about, oh, look at this. What if Justin Fields comes in and now he's got a full supporting cast, blah, blah, blah. So I'd say Pickens goes down a little bit. I say Debo and Kittle obviously go up a whole lot. I think the San Fran side is just more exciting of the two. I think Aiyuk and Debo both go up, right? So they both become fringe first round guys, and people start taking him over Marvin Harrison Jr. at the corner there.
I think that's right. We haven't seen, I think the market, as much as everyone's into Marvin Harrison, I think they would happily displace him at the 1-2 turn if any of these wide receivers, even say, God fucking forbid Kyle Pitts were to get injured, the market would push Drake London up right away. Everyone is waiting on pins and needles to have a better 2-1. I'm telling you.
They are. Yeah. They are. I mean, I myself am included in that. I don't feel comfortable doing Marvin Harrison Jr., despite the fact that I know what his upside is at the 1-2 turn. I don't like doing that at all.
Yep. Well, guys, I hopped us in BBM draft. We are going to be drafting from the 5. I believe I've had all early slots on my drafts today. Can't complain. I will give the same disclaimer that I've given to everyone else I've drafted with today. And that is, we have been in wide receiver avalanche rooms, old school avalanche. And I see a lot of red badges, lots of friends and family. So John, if you get on your running back bullshit, I'm just warning you that these are avalanche territory we are in.
I love how you came straight for me because that was 100%. I was like, let's put ourselves in a tough spot here. Let's see if we can wiggle our way out of a real tough spot. Let's push up Jahmyr Gibbs here to 5 and tell everybody that he has the elite legendary upside season there. And
so Amon-Ra goes at 1-4. You guys like Tyreek Hill, little AU at 1-5?
I'll with you. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I thought for sure we were going to have the Justin Jefferson versus CMC discussion here, but
I know
Chris G getting his lick back with CMC.
If Chris G if his earlier comments are any indication, he selected CMC solely to be able to justify a round 18 Jawan Johnson pick. I think that's what he's setting up here with CMC. For those of you guys who, for some reason, don't know the Badge Bros, they have an awesome YouTube channel where they are covering the daily contests on Underdog, as well as all of these season-long contests. They are multi-sport draftleets, and we do a show every Wednesday off and on the clock. Because I'm gone this week, we are doing a crossover here. But let the people know, as we wait on our second round pick, all of your guys' content coming up if people want to join you for some streams.
Yeah, you definitely smashed on that. We're going to be going between 1 and 2 p.m. Eastern start time every day this week. Nothing today because we're on here, and then I'm jumping on Fantasy Sanctuary with Tom and Tyler after at 6 p.m. Eastern. So dipping my toes in that water there. So that will suffice for us today in terms of our content. But yeah, we'll probably be doing some baseball slates upcoming here. And we do at least one show a week behind the paywall there. And that one fluctuates on what we're going to hit. Nez hit 7th inning stretch and a baseball slate on Friday there. But yeah, as the summer progresses, more and more of this season-long basketball stuff.
Yeah, people are clamoring for, different colored badges. The only place on the internet you can get a gold badge is by being a YouTube member of the Badge Bros and sustaining that membership for 2 months, I believe it is, and you get that really nice looking gold badge. So if you want that, if you're clamoring for that different colored badge.
And did you guys say what you recommend doing is, like, then once you have that gold badge on YouTube, you size your Chrome window down to just a super small box, and then you drag that over your Underdog username when you're drafting, and so it actually looks like you have a gold badge on Underdog.
Looks just like the real thing.
Yeah, that is the GTO process. Man, there are some fun starts out here.
That's
yeah,
one way
we're
to call
on
it.
the clock here by ADP, JT, Barkley, Adams, Nico. I still have the leg up ranks in here. I'm just terrified of avalanches this morning, so I would flow Adams, Nico, or a wide receiver. Do you guys have a lean?
+1 for Nico.
Yeah, +2 for Nico.
All right,
yeah.
There we go. John, what starts were grabbing your eye here?
The 12-13 turn there, the double stack of San Fran, or getting ahead of the potential Aiyuk moving. So pushing up both the San Fran guys on that far end there. And then Waddle up at 16 and Neighbors at 19. And then the GM of the double Atlanta there, the Bijan plus London. I haven't been able to obtain that one yet. I've seen it a couple times, but I haven't been able to obtain it.
You're right. I have not seen a Bijan Drake London in a while. And then even Brees Gibbs is pretty unique. That's hard to get as well.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of just speaking to maybe it's because we're in a stream room. Maybe it's because we're in a quote unquote sharp room and stuff that people are getting like overzealous with, okay, I'm sick of taking that same pairing after the Garrett Wilson tier drops. Because as soon as the shoe drops on like Garrett Wilson at 11, I think everyone's kind of being like, okay, 12 through 24 is like so quote unquote flat. I'm taking 2 second rounders. Let's just start getting weird with it. Right.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, man, I know all of my rooms have been avalanche because, DK Metcalf, who I think most people consider in a slightly different tier than the long, like round 2 tier, he's been going as part of this grouping just because people are making sure they don't get shut out. I'm sure John is also salivating over this because I know you love DK Metcalf and Cup, plus a unique pairing, getting both of those guys with Jamar Chase. Do you want to defect teams and go to Clutch Cow?
I love it. I love it. I mean, I have Cup, Devonta, and in that next like tier, I'm good with either of these pairings.
Do you guys want to head down a little Texans route, Nez, or do you want to grab every best ball bro's favorite 3rd round running back?
No, we got to go Diggs. I've seen too much, man. I've been tapped in with you for 3 hours on this stream. I've seen the way these rooms are going. We're going to be happier with this. And I actually am like pretty damn bullish on Stefon Diggs, man. So I like this pick.
I've been selecting Diggs a decent bit recently, but I have not got him paired with Nico, I think, at all. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, we should be able to get like pick 90 CJ Stroud in this room, I think.
We'll see what let's knock on wood, the Take Dale drafter who has not revealed themselves yet is always in contention there. I mentioned a few times CJ Stroud is one of the guys I'm like high on, but have just a scary, few shares of. I think I'm at 2%. I got one earlier with Pat and Gretch, so that feels good. But man, it's those weird things. We were talking about the scary fades, and it's just like, you're catching up at wide receiver, you're grabbing a running back follow, you're grabbing an elite tight end. And I just haven't ended up with a ton of elite QBs this year.
I was going to ask,
where are you guys at on elite QBs?
I'm not taking a ton of them either. And by them, I mean like specifically like Josh Allen right now, I don't take a lot of, but I think I need to, because like I don't have a lot of Keon Coleman, and I think that's my way to like get some of those scary Keon Coleman shares, is if I make it make sense with Josh Allen. Doing a lot of Lamar, because like the Lamar Andrews thing is like fun to grab. And I was doing a lot of Anthony Richardson too for a while there, but I've cooled off on that as like the shoulder soreness keeps like coming up in camp notes and whatnot. So I'm like pumping the brakes on that. But I was going to ask you if you were foregoing elite QB because you are doing the elite tight end so much, but that you obviously answered that question.
Yeah, I think I'm close or slightly overweight on Allen and Lamar. A lot of times like getting those early receivers and then those guys getting pushed, I think hurt. So I'm like, I think it's because of that. It's like those guys seem like screaming values, but then the Stroud stuff, I'm only really taking Stroud stacked. And if it doesn't perfectly line up for me, I'm just not getting it as much. What about you, John?
I have one Josh Allen share through 70 drafts, and it was it's kind of because I'm taking Hurts ahead at times, because I do have like 11% Hurts, but my quarterback strategy just in a vacuum is so effing flat. Like it's just kind of what I've determined that I think is closer to optimal this season. But I did do a stream one with the ETR guys. Lev did one on Friday there, and I did take a Josh Allen team that I was just pulling up on the back here just to see if I could kind of like pull. I'll tell you the reason why I did it was because in that.
Hang on real quick, John. Sorry. We're on the clock. Allen does fall, but if we're setting up something with Stroud, I don't know if we want to do that. Pickens is here, Nez. I will allow it. I've been trying to get a little bit more Pickens. Otherwise, like McBride, a running back.
I don't even take a lot of Pickens, man, to be honest. I don't know if I need to hand him my Steelers card. I do like McGronk, man. He just kind of fits our brand, but your
Nez?
call.
All right. I went with Pickens and just to
I liked
blame
either
it
of
on
those.
Nez. Get that third, the fourth wide receiver here. Sorry, John, did you have a lean there? We didn't get to get your word.
I think I'm Andrews over McBride, so taking the wide receiver there seems fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I just pulled it up. So I have Hurts at 10%, Allen at 10%, Lamar at 10%. So I've been like right there on those guys, which that's
better than I thought.
Me.
Yeah, that's slightly above average, so that's not bad. I mean, you want to talk about elite semantics? If you want to call this guy elite, Justin Herbert's my highest drafted quarterback right now at 17%.
Okay. Yeah. How much of that is backdoor stacked versus lad stacked, right? Because that's kind of like the decision point on a Herbert team.
Been doing more lad lately, usually in like 0 RB builds where like I don't need lad to like be strong the whole season. But a lot of that is backdoor with Palmer, with QJ and Chark as well. It's just really, really easy to do. Especially in these Chihuahuas, Pete. I don't know if you've been drafting them, but I've been like triple tabling, and you cannot stack to save your life. It is just like it's the gift and the curse of getting these like badgeless rooms in these fast only drafts. Is like drafting is just like it's like rage bait to try to go in there and try to stack your wide receiver one. It can't be done.
Well, you also couple that with the price point too.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to set up the Andrews and play this week 17 angle or something else?
See, yeah,
Andrews.
All right, I vote Pacheco, but and the Andrews week 17 and is just so freaking strong here.
John.
Yep, Andrews, please.
Okay, let's do it. John said please. Nez didn't say. Nez, if you say please Pacheco, not only do you have the alliteration rolling off the tongue, but you're polite.
Please Pacheco.
The Canadian politeness won me over there.
Yeah, I can't be out here begging on a national stream, man. I got too much pride.
Speaking of Canadian politeness, if any of you guys missed last week, I had Jacob Sanderson on the randomizer draft. It was a ton of fun. He was game for everything. And you can watch him sing, dance, defend clients, do all kinds of stuff. John, what are you going to do to try to move up the ranks of the most interesting Canadian in fantasy football?
Like, honest to God, I don't think I can after that. Like, Jacob's pretty dope. I really liked him coming out of his shell like that. I'm gonna have to come up with something though. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure that I got the vocals that he has though. I mean, he's not bad on the mic there.
I bet you have some athletic like I feel like, can you do something where you can like bounce a hockey puck on the end of your stick like 100 times in a row or something like that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, like that one I could even do it blindfolded. We'll
There
see.
Blindfolded.
Yeah.
Okay, that muscle my connection's that strong, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I got some like weird athletic quirks in terms of like the multi-sport drafthlete thing. Like I could still probably do like, you know, a kick flip and grind some rails and that sort of thing. I could still snowboard pretty well. You know, I could do some baseball stuff, do some hockey stuff. Maybe we could do like a fake pseudo combine one of these days, like a multi-sport combine, and make a bid out of it. That'd be fun.
Twitter is going to make you do that if you keep calling out quarterbacks for like crossing sports, trying new things, and you keep roasting them. Twitter eventually is going to like hold your feet to the fire, man, and make you like show your worth.
I'm ready for it. I'm like inviting it at this point.
You know what's so funny about that, Pete? Like, if you guys don't know, John made a post on the platform formerly known as Twitter about Caleb Williams swinging a bat and just saying that it was the worst thing that he's ever seen, and like. John was like surprised that like that so many people were enraged with him. I'm like, brother, you just did like grade A rage bait, and everyone was going off on him in his mentions. But then he had to come clap back here. This is a nice swing. This is a good swing.
I mean, John knows what he's doing here. He's not going to show himself taking a bad cut. I mean, I'm sure this was like the 100th time he got this shot just right there.
I'm not sure I got 100 swings in me. That was my tryout video because the Baseball is Dead guys are going to have a wiffle ball home run derby at the All-Star game. And I've been behind closed doors pumping on Underdog to be like, yo, let the Badge Bros be a part of this. Let the Badge Bros be a part of this. Nobody said anything. So that's my highlight reel tape to prove that, hey, come on, Dallas Braden, let me in here. I can swing it.
There you go. Guys, this is the master class.
Okay.
This is the master class. For the audio listeners, you take Nico, you take Deggs, you take Mark Andrews, you take CJ Stroud. I know I made a video that said you shouldn't care about which week 17 games are the best, but God damn it, we just double stacked with the bring back the best week 17 game.
How is it not? How is it not? And both these teams have like the best playoff schedules too. I mean, oh my goodness, man. Let's go ahead and look at these game totals ahead of time. Who cares?
So the official team so far through 6, I mean, this is like my platonic ideal of a best ball team. CJ Stroud at quarterback, Tyreek Hill, Nico Collins, Stefon Diggs, George Pickens at wide receiver, and Mark Andrews at tight end. This is how God intended this sport to be played.
I mean, if you're going to do George Pickens, he might as well be wide receiver 4, right? Like that's when George Pickens really feels fine. When you're just counting on him to be like, you know, just get those better and best ball scores.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see how some of our other friends have done in this room. So the person who I thought might take CJ Stroud went with George Kittle there at 63. They had the 2 running back start, so they were kind of having to decide, do they go quarterback?
That's our guy Andrew. Yeah, he's pretty good. He knows what he's doing.
Okay.
He's had a really good baseball season.
We're about to be on the clock. This isn't quite as avalanche-y because I feel like Deontay Johnson has gone like around ahead of his ADP in my first 3 drafts. We have Kamara, Montgomery. I feel like Kamara you don't touch right now as he's falling. Yeah. I feel like I've clicked Aaron Jones in every room so far today. What do you guys like?
I'd vote Demont or Rashee Rice.
I would say Deontay. I don't mean to like play the hits and be a cliche here, but Deontay could not be a bigger tier break at wide receiver than
Rice is
right now.
Okay.
Rice is gone.
It's such a stark tier break after Deontay.
I'm with you on that. I've not been getting a ton of him, but I also do prefer him to Jameson Williams. Let's grab our 5th wide receiver. We'll be true piss boys here this morning. John, what would you have been Demont knowing even with Rice gone, or would that have changed for you?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. It's like really close. Yeah, I'm totally fine with I'm just not a huge Deontay Johnson guy, and I think I've kind of drank in the ETR Kool-Aid to be a little bit higher on the Adam Thielen stuff than market is right now. And like those two just look like interchangeable splitting role. Like, just give me the cheaper one. I don't think Deontay Johnson's very good.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that he just hasn't scored touchdowns ever, and
I'm gonna leave the room and let
focal point.
You got to make that case, man, because Deontay Johnson is clearly good at football.
Well, I mean, like the bull case for Deontay Johnson has just always been volume merchant, right? And now, where's that volume coming from this season? Like, brand new offense, super spread. I get like the quarterback whisperer narrative, but the guy just flat out doesn't score touchdowns. And I know touchdowns are inherently variant, but like there is a skill set associated with it. And we've just seen it for so many years. I don't see how a change of scenery to a quote unquote worse offense is a good thing.
I mean, that's fair. In a very that's a sincere that's fair. That is a good point. I mean, but like not like the Steelers we're cooking this season anyhow. But Deontay's good, man. That's the final answer.
I will say David Montgomery, I think, makes a ton of sense as your first running back in some of these true zero RB builds. I think you got a lot of outs there, whether getting there via goal line carries or some contingent, but I don't mind getting a sprinkle of Deontay. I'm going to end up having like way more JSN and Addison and even Nuke in this range, but he also strikes me as like the type of guy I have a natural prejudice against, like a Josh Jacobs-esque wide receiver who, if things click, and to me, it's so correlated with Bryce Young. Like if Bryce Young takes the leap, I do think Deontay Johnson is going to smash. And it's why when I take Deontay Johnson, I really want to kind of be building out Carolina stuff because I think it's so correlated to Bryce being much, much better this year.
Well, it does give us, because we're going to be pounding running back here. So we might end up having to do a late round Bryce, which would just be our fingerprints, my fingerprints all over this entry, if that's what we end up getting here. Okay, well, we're going to have some fun options. And like you said, man, these draft rooms are flying today.
Yes, we are. We're 25 minutes in, 23 minutes in, and already in the 8th round here. This is a sweet spot for running backs. Have no problem waiting to get our first running back here. By ADP, you're looking at Zamir White, Zach Moss, and James Conner. I mean, I know I don't need to sell John on Zach Moss. I love Zach Moss. Any other stuff here, Nez?
I'm James Conner, personally.
I'm good with Conner. You take the Conner one there. Is it Jaylen Warren's gone though?
Jaylen Warren is gone. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I guess no correlations with Zach Moss. James Conner gets our Deontay Johnson. I mean, can't you just see those two just alternating 70-yard touchdowns in week 16?
Just when you think explosive, game-changing speed, don't you just think of Deontay Johnson and James Conner?
Yeah. The week 16 stack you need.
You talked about it earlier, Pete, but I do think there's definitely an edge to making your RB room in a zero RB build filled with dusty running backs like Hayden has highlighted years ago and still harps on that. Like zero running back builders don't typically take James Connors, but having him on this team, I think really locks in points because it's not like he's just like getting usurped immediately if it does happen.
And part of that is because the gross running backs used to be going earlier. It's like Najee was a 4th round pick, so you couldn't put him on a true zero RB start. And now you can do Najee, James Conner. I mean, that team I built this morning, I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to take Austin Eckler at pick 135 or whatever it was.
Starting to get way more of him too. It's just like thinking through, like he's still Austin Eckler. Like, yeah, he's got Brian Robinson in front of him. And sure, Jaden Daniels doesn't check down, but I can't get over the fact that it's, I love just fading the age curve when everybody else wants to price it in like way too much.
And to me, like at those prices, I want him mixed in my zero RB portfolio. And like, as much as I like a guy like Trey Benson, like you could just be a stone cold zero the whole year.
Yes.
So we got Tony redacted here. If John would like that, I definitely feel like this should probably be a running back pick for us, just where we're at. Pollard, Javonte, the aforementioned B-Rob. Do you have anything you like here, John?
I'm good with Pollard or Javonte, I guess. I would have
I like
floated.
redacted.
I would have floated Daniels as like a crazy
Into
swerve build.
So I guess my only, as we time out and take Tony redacted. First of all, John, you had tethered your brand to martingaling Tony Pollard last year in Royale, so I'm surprised you're going away from that. I guess my only thing is
I'm too hurt. I'm too hurt.
My thought on this was we have some interesting late stack options. Like we could get the huge Tua fall with Tyreek. We can do the Bryce Young stuff we already talked about if we want to do the field stuff. So I wanted to like leave a little flexibility. And then even though the running backs still feel pretty plentiful, we do know those runs can happen. And we only have so many picks in this range that even entering round 10 with only one running back, like we could start to feel a little thin. That would be my only thought.
Yeah, I would feel really gross.
Tony Pollard as an RB2 and a zero in a damn near true zero RB build is just like such a gift that like you said, it can't really be like said enough that like this landscape allows for this, and it just could not have happened in years past where like a guy signed a big contract to a new team that is going to be the RB1. Like in years past, we just never would have been able to do this. Just take the safety. Take the safety.
Yeah, we would have been drafting him with Mike Davis in the 4th and 5th round there. Like
this is what you do. If you don't like Deontay Johnson at pick 77, you just say like Tony Pollard should be going at pick 77, like right with these guys. And we got Deontay Johnson at 101. Nice value on Deontay, triple digits. Just tell yourself we're good. We did it. We're fine.
Yeah, that's a sweet PR spin zone.
John bringing up Mike Davis just like reminds me, like one of the first times I jumped in a draft with you, Pete, on stream. It was like 2021, that Mike Davis to the Falcons season, and I drafted Mike Davis in there. I was like, hey, like Pete, why don't you review my team? And I think you just very so gently were just like, yeah, Mike Davis is like the worst pick probably in best ball history. It was great.
This still looks like an awesome spot for a running back. I am open to Singletary. I'm open to a little hand cucking if you're feeling frisky. Brown, Corum. What do you guys like?
Singletary or Brown? John, your turn.
Singletary.
Boom. Done.
That feels really good.
That does feel good.
Look at this. Singletary, 7 picks past ADP. Here's the room through 10 rounds. CJ Stroud at quarterback. We have now taken 3 straight running backs: James Conner, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary. Our wide receivers: Tyreek Hill, Nico Collins, Stefon Diggs, George Pickens, and the new redacted Deontay Johnson, and then tight end Mark Andrews. I think we're cooking here, guys.
I enjoy this. I enjoy this quite a bit.
I don't think Deontay Johnson could be drafted enough to become the new redacted for me. Like I couldn't physically click that button enough to fully redact him in my future.
I will say, and maybe this is instructive. Deontay Johnson doesn't strike me as a guy I'll be drafting a ton in battle royales. But maybe he could be the advance rate guy that gets this team through. Deontay Johnson and George Pickens are honestly like a pretty good pairing because Deontay Johnson's gonna be like 0, 2, 0, 40, and Deontay's gonna be 11, 12.
That is the, 12. I mean, everybody's got tools, everybody's got overlays. The next venture that needs to be done is like the interweaving of player profiles, and then that is the new hybrid rank. Like, how does you get a bump with Deontay Johnson if you have somebody like Pickens or Debo or something like that? Maybe that's our avenue, John. There's the little bit of juice left to squeeze.
So we could close the loop at quarterback, or we could try to push it. The Waddle drafters, Nick, who has Hurts. He'll probably definitely take 2 at 129 or 136.
I like Tua or Schultz. Is Schultz still there? I wasn't really paying attention.
He is.
Schultz is the same bye week. I would say Rico personally. I've been taking a lot of Rico lately.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess the same bye week and the triple. Normally I've been doing Schultz, like if I for sure want that double. So I guess I don't mind pushing that there. That was a hard decision for me between running back or Tua, I feel like. knowing that Tua is not going to come back. But I think we still have quarterback outs. We're fine.
I think we do too. And like this, the fact that we have Stroud double stacked, it's just such a huge bet on him like crushing that you just almost have to like lean into that. And I like the Rico pick just because I think he might, with Zeke there, he might start off a little slow. It might take him time to, get the role that we think that he can eventually earn. And having these volume guys taken ahead of him just gives him like a bit of time to come on.
I love the filibustering why this is a good Rico pick, because you're just thinking about how to set up a Bryce Young backdoor with Deontay this whole time. Tua wasn't even on the radar.
So why would he be though?
Here's my thing with Tua, even aside from Nez's point, like there's just so many rooms. Like I got him at like some absurd pick on the Swolecast earlier when I had both Waddle and Reek. And you'll just see him in every other room slide 20 picks past ADP. So I'm fine to lose him at ADP, even correlated in those rooms, just knowing the Tua teams I am going to build are just going to be monsters.
Yeah, like I said, man, I just like leaning into the bet that we made, and like and using an 11th round pick when we like clearly like running backs are about to get gross. Like we're about to have to start wish casting for our RB5 and on. So I just want to get out ahead of that.
Yeah. So we're at a 1-4-5-1 build, about to pick here at 12-8, pick 140. Because we got the elite quarterback and elite tight end, 4 running backs, 5 wide receivers, we're not really behind at any position, can continue to kind of just take what we think is the best pick available here.
Yep.
I do kind of like these running backs here. I'm good with Chandler or Lloyd. John, do you see anything that jumps out to you?
I'm good with Chandler.
I like Ty Chandler a lot here.
John, what the just nothing? Everything's gross? I mean,
yeah, I'm not really. Yeah, let's go with Ty Chandler.
All right, we'll grab Chandler. No correlation angles, but I do kind of agree with Nez that after this 12-13 turn, you're kind of in pretty big flyer territory. Here, we're going to have to now kind of find our wide receivers. We'll probably at least get to 7 wide receivers here. I'm also interested in a little late round Jatavian Sanders. I've been looking for some excuses to draft him. This might be a good excuse team to do Jatavian.
Oh man. Yeah. Now we're really queuing up that. I mean, John, that wasn't even me. Okay. That was Pete. that came from the man behind the wheel. He's the one trying to set up the Bryce double, not me. I did want to say, like, I keep like oscillating on like MarShawn Lloyd is a good pick. MarShawn Lloyd is overvalued. I'm now back in the overvalued camp and like thinking like AJ Dillon is probably live to like outscore him on the season. I mean, they brought him back. He's still there for whatever reason. They enjoy AJ Dillon. I'm just like, I keep getting, MarShawn Lloyd like propaganda sent to me, and then I'm going back and forth. But now I'm back in the MarShawn Lloyd. I just think he needs something to happen. I think to pay off even at round 12.
But most of these guys do in this range. I mean, that's why I kind of like him, because I think the most likely thing is what you're saying, but there is room for standalone value. Hang on. We're going to make this pick. Geez, Lawrence is really falling here. John, what do you see on this board? We don't.
I kind of like Freiermuth.
Ooh, I like getting another tight end here.
Let's do it.
Then that also gives us another out. John is going to try to bully us off the Bryce Young thing to a Justin Fields thing. I love it. There you go.
Know, there's a little bit of like 16 there too with the Baltimore stuff, and yeah, I don't know. Feels okay. I don't take a ton of Freiermuth, but I did like the bull case that you guys were talking through with Shawn earlier. I did want to look at that Musgrave one there. The Tucker Kraft stuff getting injured. Like, does that move Musgrave up for you guys?
I've been more willing to take him. At first it kind of felt shaky in one of those spots where you're like, just take the cheaper guys. Like, maybe 25% of the time Kraft is the lead guy. And so then once you introduce that, I feel like Musgrave has been like an auto click for me on Jordan Love teams, and then
Yes.
still definitely mixing him in otherwise.
If you could tell me like I can't have an elite tight end, or if I could just do a triple tight end build of Musgrave, Jonnu, and Chig, like for damn near like every draft that I don't get an elite tight end, I think I would take that like every time. Those three, I just cannot stop taking those three if I don't have an elite tight end on my team.
So
What's the? I feel like
Musgrave?
Chig is the one I struggle with probably the most out of the three you named.
Yeah, I got the Titans jersey in the background, as you can see, all CJ2K. John and I put our stamp down on loving the Jags Titans Week 17 game. I'm ready to get my heart broken by Will Levis in this Titans offense. I am taking a ton of Ridley. I'm taking a ton of Hopkins. I'm taking a ton of Pollard. I'm buying this whole offense that I think is filled with good players. And of course, it's so fragile because it depends on like Will Levis not being bad. But like, when it comes to, do I take like the rookie Lad McConkey, or do I take like guys that have had multiple consecutive seasons of 120 plus targets? Like, I'm probably going to go for the guys that have like shown that they're stars in the NFL. And the Titans have just amassed all of them. And it, for better or worse, like I think I'm making the same bet as the Titans. They don't know if Will Levis is going to be the guy, but for God's sake, man, that team is ready to explode if he is. So,
They are telling
and I
us
think
that
Chig
all
is
they
an
wanna do is-
extremely, and I just think Chig is a pretty damn good receiver too. So maybe that's bullish, way bullish, but
All
They
right,
just told us
we're-
all they want to do is pass, right?
We're on the clock. I do think a Denver wide receiver, like with these five, makes a lot of sense as an upside. I'm also happy to do, if we want to do Gibson here and kind of shut it down at running back. What do you guys think?
Gibson for me, John, I'm not like super strong on that though.
I'd say Thielen.
Who?
Which is
He wants
so
to do Thielen.
Do it.
Set it up the double. Let's go.
This might be my only Thielen click, but if you're ever going to win me over, it's with some kind of correlation angle.
Oh my gosh, man. It's too easy. I didn't even have to suggest the Bryce doubles, man. John did it for me.
With this team is begging for is Bucky Irving gone yet at
Yeah.
like running back?
Yeah.
That one pushed up. I mean, McMillan, maybe something like that, because we got all the Carolina shit covered, to be honest, because we got Dallas in 15, Arizona in 16, and then you just need one little Tampa Bay piece.
Yeah,
I mean,
fun.
this is turning into the Bryce double.
We were talking about how, it's fun to, on zero RB teams, take the running back zero RB bros. Don't take. What about this next level? Zero RB teams where you take the wide receivers.
Yes.
The zero RB. bros.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the next level. It's the
This is
galaxy
the
brain
next
meme.
level.
We're the exploding 4D person in meditation right now.
I
Perfect.
can't believe this is what, when I was warning about bullshit, I was worried about John getting on some running back bullshit. What I really should have been worried about is Nez loving Deontay, John loving Adam Thielen, and me coming in and playing peacemaker by putting both of them on the same team.
You're a great mediator, Pete. Now we all lose.
Oh man. All right. Let's see here. So we're at a 1-5-6-2 build. We're done at tight end, most likely, although you talked me into a little Jatavian Sanders still. We did pass on Gibson. I would have no problem with a little Braylon Allen here.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I think we shoot the moon with Braylon Allen.
what do you think, John?
Yeah, I'm good with it. Sounds
What
good.
would be your other name?
Yeah, what do
in
you
the mix
think?
for you?
I'd just stick Bryce, and then now we're committing to that. But I know you can wait. But like the way I like think through making the build different is I'd scroll the F down for like a late running back instead of like taking Allen. But yeah,
We've already established, John, this build is very different from a typical zero RB strategy. I'm telling
It
you,
is.
someone show me the combinatorial ownership of a CJ Stroud, Diggs, Nico, Mark Andrews, zero RB bringback that also has Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen. It's the only one that will ever exist in the history of humanity.
You could draft the same team for the rest of your BBMs, Pete, and your Jacquard score is going to be out of this world because you have this single build in your like nobody's going to come close to this.
I would love to see my like Jacquard chart, and then there's like a dot because it like broke it and it was like off and on the clock Badge Bro stream on June 17th.
We do need those outlier points. That's the next level for sack.
I do think like it is, John, like let's talk through the quarterback stuff, because you can make just as much of a case for Fields as you can Bryce.
Yeah.
I think you could make the case. I'm not anti, because we could shut this team down at 6 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. I wouldn't even blink. Like we could do both Bryce and Fields on this team if we wanted.
I think I'd love that, to be honest.
Because I mean, Nez, with the Deontay and Thielen stuff, I think we could shut this down. I mean, normally my reflex would be one more QB. But we have 3 spots. We can go 7 wide receivers and get both those quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would say the 7th wide receivers is a luxury personally, just because we went so heavy at it, and like Thielen is like so live to beat his ADP in production that I think it's probably fine to stop at 6. But we'll see how the board comes to us. And this does seem like a luxury field. I'm only doing Fields now if I can absolutely like make it work. I'm not doing Fields as my second QB right now, personally.
Yeah.
So this I think this would make sense.
Stepfather says you cannot make the same case for Fields as you can Bryce. You've made the bet on multiple Panthers. Wait until I blow your mind, Stepfathers, and let you know that we've made the bet on multiple Steelers as well.
The big reveal.
Oh man, that Michael Wilson would have been nice from a correlation standpoint.
John, you want to lock up
that.
Bryce here?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Let's do Bryce and Fields, and then let's scroll the F down for a wide receiver. I kind of got
like
one
that.
in mind.
Okay, that's what I can't. If John has to pull a good scroll the F down.
I'm rocking the dad hat, baby, which is for sale at the Overset merch store. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead. It's a great looking hat. I get a lot of compliments on it. Have fun explaining what it is, what it's all about. Yeah, I do a show on YouTube Monday through Friday, and then at that point they're already walking away. They don't even care.
Yeah. I love it. I was drinking out of, we got the scroll the F down pint glasses too. I had those
those are nice,
latte
man.
out of
They're
that
slick.
earlier. Oh yeah. We do have the shirt John's wearing as well is in the store. The badge, bro.
Shout out to me. His icon's still on there.
I'm going to read this team so far. We got a 2-6-6-2 build. Stroud and Bryce Young, both Stroud and Bryce Young double stacked with equally high caliber wide receivers. Nico, Diggs, Deontay Johnson, and Adam Thielen. We got our 6 running backs: James Conner, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Rico Dowdle, Ty Chandler, and Braylon Allen. The other wide receivers, we do have Tyreek on here. We have Pickens, and those are our 2 non-teammates, and then Mark Andrews and Pat Freiermuth. I was also thinking, we're on the clock here. Do we lock up Fields?
Yeah.
Let's see John's big reveal.
It's not that big a reveal, and we can talk openly about it because we can find some good scroll at wide receiver. But I think Trey Palmer as like the bring back feels a guy who's everyone's forgotten about.
I'm good with that for the bring back. The other one I would say, just because I've been seeing some buzz on the Fields team, and maybe Nez, our homer, has a take on it, but a little Calvin Austin might be on the menu too.
I do like Calvin Austin. But I mean, the Trey Palmer woke up pissed off bit is just like, it's so good that it makes me want to just take him on the team until Calvin Austin does something as funny as waking up pissed off every game day. I'm cool with Trey Palmer.
All right, let's see how this breaks. It is kind of interesting to have a luxury pick when you do kind of an extreme structure and take detours for the onesies. But I guess that is the thing when you can get the 2 elite onesies, it really kind of gives you max flexibility. Because I look at our room here, and again, we can all laugh about our Carolina guys, but it's just like positionally, I feel like we're covered everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing that I would maybe do is like, if I was drafting this like on my own, I would probably go a 7th running back. But I'm definitely a bit of an outlier in the ever doing a build with more running backs than wide receivers.
Yes. I kind of like this thought from Easy too. Mid IQ thought here. You might not want a week 17 bring back for Bryce because you're going with the Stroud double and Andrews angle.
That being said, Easy sheet on the other side here says Trey Palmer is the 4th best correlated selection for us right now.
What about?
Yeah.
Do you like Walker more than Palmer, John? Or sorry, vice versa, Palmer more than Walker for this team?
I'm good with either. You could talk me into either. Walker, the great unknown, right?
Yeah. The only other thing is, I mean, we already have. What's super fun is we do have the Baltimore versus both Pitt and Houston. I'm gonna throw these names all in. I got Devontae Walker, Trey Palmer, Calvin Austin. What are your guys' votes?
I like the Walker angle now.
Yeah, I mean, John, I really love the Trey Palmer suggestion. Really do. And it fits the brand. But I think Walker is just like such a good pick here. He's rarely available in the 18th and correlates so well. And I really love this team that, like, I don't think we have room to squeeze in a bit. Like, this is just a really good team.
John was trying to make a legit, sourced, case for Trey Palmer, and that's because we don't have room for a bit.
Little backhanded compliment.
Wait, someone stole Jawan Jennings from our guy Chris there. I do feel bad, John. I did want to give you the opportunity to really flex the brand with a scroll the F down play. But the double bring back on what we called the greatest Week 17 game of all of history, it's hard to resist that.
Yep, I agree with you guys.
Yeah.
John's about to rip a chihuahua and scroll down for his last 5 picks. Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan, double with Baker coming up.
All right, let me get this labeled here. We're gonna call this a BBB OOTC. This is my new battleship BBB OO2C 3672. Houston, we have a problem. No scroll the F down candidates. Houston, we have a problem. All right, final team here. And God, this is one of the most like fun mishmashes of ideas that's still like a correlated masterpiece draft here. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Justin Fields, all of them double stacked. I mean, this is what dreams are made of. James Conner, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Rico Dowdle, Ty Chandler, Braylon Allen at running back. Our wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Nico Collins, Stefon Diggs, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, and Devontae Walker, Mark Andrews, and Pat Freiermuth. And yes, the chat wants to cancel us for not getting a KC bring back for Pittsburgh. It is what it is. How do you guys feel about this team?
I love it.
John. It's fun. Yeah. I mean, like, I love the fact that we come out here and draft something that both comes across as borderline intelligent, but also comes across as like something completely different than anybody else is willing to showcase on a stream.
Yeah, what did Pete say? A correlated mishmash? That is like, is that not what we do? Just correlated mishmashes over at our channel?
It's probably the weakest running back room I've done thus far in a BBM. But that being said, it turned out decently. I think I'll still go back, even though we ended up landing the plane with a double stack. The Deontay Johnson pick would be like the one I wish I could go back in time. Like, what does he do for us after like tacking on a 5th wide receiver at ADP there, even though it's a tier break? That's the one pick I wish we could go back in time and change.
And Nez, do you want to say you want to go back in time and change the Adam Thielen pick?
I love the Adam Thielen pick. No, I don't blame you. I can't blame anybody for not seeing what I see in Deontay Johnson. I just have a long history of thinking that he's a good football player. I am a Bryce Young defender. I'm not going to push back that hard.
Yeah. I like this team. It for having two guys that I never take or want to click in Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen and loving this team. It does show that when I do my hierarchy of needs as a best ball bro, like correlation reigns supreme. It's like, you can put the grossest fucking names on there, but if they correlate, baby, let's talk.
Yeah. And we can go full spin zone on those ones. Like, we just go Dave Canales, quarterback whisperer. Here we go, wheels up for that Carolina Panthers team.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Tyler, for becoming a new YouTube member here. Like the bros mentioned over on their channel, they also have YouTube membership. If you guys are wanting to grind some of those daily sports, you guys do member only streams. What do you guys got going on right now? Baseball member only streams?
Yeah, we do the
Primarily,
members
yeah.
only on Fridays typically, but we pretty much cover a baseball slate every day and then cap it off with some type of underdog draft, whatever time box contest is newly launched. So BBM doesn't fill in July, or a BBM itself. We do a little bit of both. We are multi-sport draft leads, so if you want to try to get into baseball, or you just want to, or you are into baseball and want to hear some takes, come on over. We got you covered. John is having a really nice season. He won't say it, so I'll say it for him. Dude knows ball, so come over, get some takes, and fire off at these contests. We got 6K to first for baseball today,
Yeah.
so you can max
There you
BBM
go.
and then some if you take that down today.
I'm dropping the link in the chat to the Badge Bros. I know a lot of you guys are familiar, but we also have a lot of people watching live. If you guys aren't subscribed to the Badge Bros, check it out. All of the guests I've had do awesome YouTube content today. The Badge Bros, Gretch over on the Stealing Signals, Kerrane on Legendary Upside, Shawn over on the RotoViz Airwaves, and then also another mention for the Deposit Kingdom YouTube channel. Check out my most recent video over there on 10 insights after 50 drafts. This was a blast, guys. Anything else you'd like to mention from Badge Bro Nation? You guys, of course, have a home in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. We got channels for all those sports, all kinds of good discourse going on there around the clock.
Actually, speaking of channels, I gotta get this one out. Our guy Brad, who's a member, and he's always jamming in primarily the Hoops channel, but he's always jamming in there. It really cracked me up the other day. He dropped a line that said, "My 9-year-old daughter this morning said to mom, Dad has Facebook for boys on his phone. It's called #hoops." So like she just sees the notification popping on his phone over and over again, and it's Facebook for dads. So that's probably the best way to describe it right now. It's Underdog Facebook for dads. I love that line.
Love it.
There's one other one that I wanted to say that we're gonna do a live meetup, not Badge Bros, but I'll be there with Jacob and Sal, and I'm gonna help hang out with the Vancouver Scott Fishbowl get together. So if anybody's in this area and wants to hang out with us, have some beers, draft some teams, talk some Underdog, I'm going to bring 3 Underdog merch packages that just arrived at my door this morning as well. So we'll be handing those out.
Awesome. And I mentioned this at the top. I am out pretty much the rest of the week. I'm going to record a Deposit Kingdom video to have out later, but otherwise no more shows for me. There won't be ship chasing. We obviously just did off and on the clock here. I think they're doing Swolecast. They're going to get some guests for that. No randomizer this week. No Best Ball After Dark as I'm traveling, taking April on her first plane ride, but I will be back. I believe Monday the 24th. We'll hit the ground running with a full schedule. And yes, I will not forget about the New Balance giveaway from the first stream. If I win Best Ball Mania, and you know what? I'll extend it to if I win Best Ball Mania with any of the teams we drafted today, we will do a New Balance giveaway. So the way you get entered is when the stream ends here in about 20 seconds. You put your shoe size, and then I'm going to get data. I'm going to be able to have someone run some data on, YouTube says, oh, your gender, your age. Now I'm going to know what size feet my audience has in the aggregate, and what color shoe you would like when one of these teams wins Best Ball Mania. This has been a blast. Enjoy the rest of your week. Tons of great best ball content out there these days. Soak it all up. Go argue about what elite tight end means. It's a wonderful time to be alive. We'll see you guys.